look, we're all going to hell in a handbasket. This is the end of civilization. Go for a jog. But also, I kind of want it.
Well, I mean, I've been really getting into my running recently. I'm no good at it, but I like it because it gets me out of the house for a while. The worst thing you could do is give me a pill that means, oh, why don't you stay here and still deal with everything in the house?
What if you watch a YouTube video of somebody running? Would that...
No, I still have to do all the childcare. It's the fact that I can get out of the house away from the kids for like a half an hour. In fact, why am I trying to run faster? If anything, I should be running slower. That would make it a lot better, wouldn't it? All right, Jonathan, The Telegraph and a council has forced a mother to remove a body bag. Surely the council should remove the body bags. What am I paying my taxes for?
So, mother forced to remove Halloween body bag display by council after complaints. So this lady was instructed to remove the body bag's decorations, which was hanging from a tree, after neighbours said the Halloween display was triggering.
There it is. You can see on the screen. It's
not
worse than you think.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not just a body bag, is it?
I thought it was going to be bad, and incredibly, that's worse.
Yeah, very strange. Her husband...
The radio listener, it's an upside-down body bag in a tree.
Yeah, it does look pretty horrific.
It looks like you could recognise who was in it. That's how tight it was.
Yeah, and the weird thing was she put it up in August, so I don't really know what she was, what she was going for. Look, it's a bit morbid. I mean, I like Halloween. I like the decorations. I think it's very fun. But at the same time, that just makes me think of brutal death.
It's disgusting and insane. On the other hand, if you had killed someone...
Perfect disguise.
That would be pretty, like, gutsy if she actually had killed someone and she's like... and got away with it, because then I would respect it. Otherwise, I think it's, like, obviously appalling and insane.
Yeah, well, you know, then you'd respect it. Otherwise, it's terrible. But if you're actually a murderer...
Yeah.
Well done. Let's try and fit this in the last minute. Nick, the Times has a list of most popular songs for ill people to die to, although some Ed Sheeran songs will make non-ill people want to die as well.
Yeah, I'm glad we've squeezed in this funny, light-hearted story. The 10 most popular songs to die to, from Sinatra to Cyndi Lauper. Yeah, this looked like a sort of light-hearted story, but it's sadly not at all. But Frank Sinatra's My Way does well. Hey Jude, apparently. I mean, what can you say? I mean, I was hoping I'd come up with something, but this is more shocking than I realised.
I think if you're going to die halfway through it, you want to pick a song like Up the Junction by Squeeze, which is really happy until the last two verses. So as long as you're out before then, what an uplifting...
Don't you want to pick something like Bohemian Rhapsody, so it's so long you never die?
You live a bit longer. It's like your final meal should be one of those 24-hour long slow roasts. Anyway.
All-day buffet.
So on that happy note, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Thursday's front pages. The Eye, workers get right to flexible working under new Rayner law. The Express goes with winter fuel pensioners now face tax raid. On that topic, Telegraph, £25 billion tax rise, pain on way, warns IFS. The Guardian phrases it as PM to vow to end austerity needs £25 billion of tax rises. The Sun says Swiftgate, home sex-free gig after pressing for VIP cop escort. And your Daily Star, shame on the team making scumbags. Fair enough. Those are your front pages. That's all we've got time for. Thank you to my guests, Jonathan Cogan and Nick Dixon. We're back tomorrow at 11 with Leo Kirst, Kerry Marks and Paul Cox. If you're watching at 5, keep watching for breakfast. Have yourself a good one.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. I'm here with your GB News weather from the Met Office. As we go through into tomorrow, it is going to turn drier for many of us with some clearer or brighter skies, but with that it is also going to be a bit chillier, because as the low pressure that's been dominating the weather across the UK recently drifts away towards the east, we will then get a northerly flow, and that northerly air is going to bring something a little bit colder. For the time being though, still some clouds, some outbreaks of rain across many parts of England and Wales. All of this though shifting further southwards, with clearer skies developing across Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland. And under these clearer skies, temperatures are going to take a bit of a drop, turning pretty chilly. Could be a touch of frost in some places. A milder night though across the south. Here it is going to be a cloudier start to tomorrow morning. There will be some outbreaks of rain, could be the odd heavier burst, but most of this will clear through as we go through the morning. For central parts, things brightening up quite quickly, and also some decent bright sunny weather across parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England and Scotland. But all the time there will be some showers around. The showers will be most likely in areas exposed to that northerly wind, so parts of Northern Ireland, Northern Scotland and down the eastern side of England and Scotland as well. But even a few showers are possible elsewhere. We may see 1 or 2 showers developing in some inland places too, but for many it is going to be a much drier day than the last couple of days, and it's going to be a bit brighter. But like I said, we do have that cold air pushing its its way in, so temperatures markedly lower and feeling pretty cold indeed, especially in those brisk northerly winds. As we go towards the end of the week, and a bit of a north-south split developing, wetter weather across northern parts, so Scotland seeing some outbreaks of rain, perhaps some winteriness over the higher ground, staying drier and brighter across the southern two-thirds of the UK, however. Again, through the weekend, some rain is likely, mainly in the north. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Hurricane Milton makes landfall in Florida, carving a path of destruction.
2 million homes without power and winds over 100 miles an hour are causing havoc.
Well, it's the third such hurricane this year to hit Florida, as experts are warning of a once-in-a-thousand-year flooding event as it makes its way across the state.
Tax raid fears as the leading think tank warns taxes will need to rise by £25 billion to avoid austerity.
And then there were two. Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch face off for the Conservative leadership. James Cleverly is knocked out.
Cracking under pressure. Egg farmers scrambling to find ways to survive an increasingly strained industry.
As National Treasure Miranda Hart ties the knot at 51, we're debating whether you can ever be too old to find love.
And in sport, England play Greece tonight in their first competitive game since the famous David Beckham free kick in 2001. You remember that? Jurgen Klopp has a new job and Dortmund fans aren't happy about it. And the yells of...
Out!
Out!
At Wimbledon will be a thing of the past, thank goodness.
A colder feel out there today, but for many of us, a brighter day. There'll be some sunny spells and just 1 or 2 showers. Join me later for a full forecast.
Just gone 6 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Good morning to you. Good morning.
The out was very nice.
It was.
The out was very nice.
So Ellie said she was going to do that. And
Yeah,
then she
no, I
obviously wasn't
forgot.
listening.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But then
There
we
was
both did
quite
it.
long for it. I thought it was a foot fault.
And I thought it was good.
But they yell. The thing is, they don't help, and then whoa, and then just make noises.
Oh, do they?
But they're now not going to have them anymore, which I think is quite frankly a
Or is it
disgrace.
just going to be a beep?
It's going to be a beep. So there's
Like
a
a
way
beep
around.
test.
So maybe instead of a beep, they could record someone going hurt or one of yours, and then that could play.
It's not going to sound like Wimbledon.
It won't sound like Wimbledon.
That's what I think.
What are they going to do now? Take away the strawberries next? Are they? I think they probably will.
Probably. It's going to be a nightmare Halloween, apparently.
Oh, is it?
Not in a good
That's
way.
a good. Oh, it's a bad
No,
one.
not in a good way.
Okay.
Because according to a story in the Mail this morning, they're running out of pumpkins
Why?
because of an army of slugs.
Oh, no. Attacking our pumpkins.
So it's been an abysmal harvest, apparently. So there you go.
I had some bugs on my pumpkins once as well.
Oh, here we go.
Well, the thing... but
what's the punchline?
No, that's it. That is the punchline.
No, is that it?
No, that's it. No.
You had bugs on your
Yeah,
pumpkins. Are you
yeah.
growing your own pumpkins?
Well, yeah, kind of, yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
nice.
I've always wanted to grow pumpkins. I've always liked the idea of growing.
Do you want to bring some in for us?
I'd like
There's gonna
to.
be a
If there's a shortage, I'll
See,
bring
I saw
some
some in the shops the other day, but I thought it was too early to pick one up.
Because the thing is,
Oh, it is, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't, but maybe I should.
Well, it's only the 10th.
Apparently the slugs are stopping them from growing, so they're going to be tiny as well. If you can get your hands on one, they're going to be really small.
Well, that's all right. We never had pumpkins when I was a kid. It was turnips. You had to have turnips.
Turnips?
You had to do a turnip lantern.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
nice.
You didn't get...
What, would you carve out the inside of a turnip? How?
Come on, get in touch, gbnews.com/yoursay, especially if you're a northerner, because we never had pumpkins up north. You never had pumpkins delivered up north.
Can you carve out a turnip?
It's hard work. My dad used to have
They're
to carve
really
out
hard.
and then once he'd carved it out, we'd cut the shapes.
I hate to sound like someone like pathetic southerner, but turnips like big carrot-shaped things.
No, they're round.
No, they're like...
Are they?
They're round.
Oh, yeah, they're like a Swede. Yeah.
like a
But
Swede.
small, so it's like a
they're
smaller
small.
pumpkin.
Yeah, but
Only
rock
little.
hard.
Right,
rock hard.
and then you would...
You would carve it out and then you could cook with the turnip. But yeah, it was always turnip. No one had ever heard of a pumpkin lantern. It was just turnip lanterns.
And then trick or treat, there was no such thing when we were kids either.
No.
That's a newer thing as well.
I'm already
because it came
panicking
from
about
America.
that. I need to get chocolates and sweets.
Do you?
Yeah, I've got
Do you entertain them?
Yes.
Oh, I don't. I just turn all the
Oh,
lights.
he's a Scrooge.
Can't be bothered.
No, I entertain them.
Can't
Then
be bothered at all.
the last few years, nobody's really showed up. So I don't know. Maybe it's the thing that's dying out.
I like it. It's when you get the bigger kids that's the problem. you know?
Yeah, and they
Right.
steal everything.
Yeah.
You've got a cheery one to get us
Oh,
thinking.
I've got a cheery one. What song would you like to die to? There's a report out today about the top 10 most popular songs to die to. Number 1, My Way, Frank Sinatra, which I think is the classic.
And by the way, I know this is ridiculous, but do you pop your clogs halfway through the song? Do you have to wait until the end of the
Just wait
song?
till the end,
Wait till the end.
and then away you go.
The crescendo.
Anyway, there's a thought. Let us know yours. gbnews.com/yoursay. Right. Let's talk about the worst hurricane in 100 years that's hit the west coast of the United States.
Yes, Hurricane Milton made landfall on Florida's west coast just a few hours ago, around 8:30 p.m. local time, a little sooner and further south than expected, offering the state a glimmer of hope.
Well, the storm has been listed a Category 3 hurricane with maximum listed sustained winds of 120 miles an hour, according to the National Hurricane Centre.
It's being called the worst in a 1,000-year flood, with the US National Weather Service issuing the highest level of flood warning to more than 2 million residents, while nearly 1.6 million people are experiencing blackouts.
Let's talk to senior meteorologist Matthew Capucci, who's in Florida this morning. Matthew, what's the situation?
Yeah, well, you just talked about those blackouts. You're probably wondering what I'm holding. This is actually an emergency light that apparently was blowing around in the parking lot. You know those exit signs they have overhead? This is one of those. This is the only light I can find around. I'm in Sarasota, Florida, which was hit dead on by this hurricane. We had winds gusting 160 to 175 kilometers per hour where I was. A storm surge, so water pushed against the coast of 3 to almost 4 meters. Downtown Sarasota is underwater. We've had incredible rains. In fact, Tampa picked up a once-in-a-1,000-year flood event with about 5.09 inches worth of rain, so about 13 centimeters of rain in a single hour's time. And now that same rain, that same wind is spreading farther east to cities like Orlando, where Disney World is, home to 1 million plus people. And the other thing, too, even before Milton made landfall, we had tornadoes, including a deadly tornado in Fort Pierce, Florida. This is one of Florida's worst tornado outbreaks on record. And realistically, the state has seen just about every type of bad weather there is today, and it will take at least another 6 to 8 hours before things are finally done.
And Matthew, describe for us what this experience has been like for you. Could you feel the hurricane before it passed over you? What did it sound like? What did it feel like as it passed over you? And where are you sheltering right now?
Well, right now I'm finally back at a hotel that I chose because it's high enough above the surge level that I won't have to worry about water, and it's a cement building, so it is staying intact in the wind. But that said, I've chased many hurricanes, and this likely was the most intense. You know, during the height of it, when I was getting winds to 115 miles per hour, so close to 170 kilometers per hour, I had traffic lights flying past me. I had debris flying past me. I was unable to stand out. My vehicle was rocking back and forth by about 20 plus centimeters. At one point, I was near a sky-rise building, and a cement bench from the rooftop of the building came crashing down to the ground next to me. Had I been there, it would have killed me. I watched roofs fly off homes. I've seen other buildings underwater, and so this really has been a serious storm. And I only saw it from a localized area. I can only imagine how many people were impacted, just given the scale of how big the storm is hitting such a populous state.
Heck, I mean, it's quite unbelievable to see exactly what is going on there. I mean, in terms of preparedness, how much was put in place before Milton hit?
Well, you had millions of people trying to evacuate, this being the biggest evacuation in Florida since Irma hit back in 2017. The tricky part, though, is that people ran out of gas as they were trying to leave. You know, they were fleeing the western part of Florida and in large quantities, and some people ran out of gas on the highway.
Oh, I think we've...
you can imagine the phone's been ringing off the hook. My apologies, I'm still here. But it's been absolutely incredible for so many people. One other thing that we've seen, too, you know, just 2 weeks ago, Helene came through, caused a storm surge that devastated part of the coastline. And now, once again, we're getting an even greater storm surge. So I think, if anything, what happened 2 weeks ago scared people into taking action this time. So that's the only piece of good news for getting 2 back-to-back storms.
Matthew, is there a glimmer of hope in the sense that the storm has been downgraded? There was fears that it was going to be a Category 5 storm. It was downgraded to 3, and now I believe it's gone down to Category 2.
Yeah, so right now it's weakening from a tropical standpoint, but the issue is it's undergoing something called extratropical transition, or basically converting into a non-tropical storm. And part of that involves dry air wrapping in on the backside. Now, 9 times out of 10, that would kind of kill the storm slowly. However, this time it didn't do that. It induced something called a sting jet. And it's a very weird niche meteorological phenomenon where basically you have dry air wrapping in the backside of the storm, cutting underneath the moist air. So rain tries to fall in the dry air. It can't. It dries up. And so that kind of part of the cloud dries up, and the dry air becomes heavier. It rushes towards the ground, and it pulls strong winds from the upper atmosphere with it. And so you're able to get crazy gusts down to the surface that you otherwise wouldn't get. And that's why the backside was even worse than the first side, and why we've seen so much wind damage for so many people, even after the main part of the storm passed.
It sounds like an absolute nightmare. Matthew, good to talk to you this morning. Thanks very much indeed.
Yeah, stay safe.
Thank
you.
Unbelievable. I mean, it really is. If you were out there, absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, scary stuff.
Yeah, if you've got friends or family out there and you've let's hope they're okay, that you've been able to check in on them. But it's just frankly unbelievable that sort of weather.
Yeah, and even as it passes, I mean, that's not the end of it, is it?
No.
You could look at storm surges
and then you've got the clean-up.
Then the clean-up operation begins, exactly. And for the meantime, as you can see, blackouts, lack of internet, lack of power. I mean, it's difficult. I think in some parts of Florida now, they've actually called off any rescue operations because the wind is
just too dangerous.
It's too dangerous for anyone to go outside. So we won't know the full extent of any damage, devastation until the next few hours. But we'll bring that to you here on GB News.
Yeah, we will. Now, the Institute for Fiscal Studies is warning Rachel Reeves must increase taxes by as much as £25 billion in order to avoid austerity.
While Labour planned for only £9 billion of tax rises, the budget is expected to surpass post-election rates under Gordon Brown's 1997 government and David Cameron's in 2010.
Well, the IFS now warn the tax burden will rise to 37.9%, making it the highest share since peacetime.
And in a shocking turn of events, James Cleverly, who had been the favourite, has now been knocked out of the Tory leadership race.
Yeah, the final two then, Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick, just 1 point apart. Badenoch getting 42 votes, Jenrick 47. Jenrick 41, beg your pardon, 37 for James Cleverly, which actually saw his number drop down.
Well, joining us now, former Special Advisor to Michael Gove, Charlie Rowley. Good to see you this morning,
Good morning.
Charlie. And should we start with that shock result yesterday? James Cleverly, the favourite, out of the race. What happened?
Well, it was an extraordinary turn of events, wasn't it? As having
There was a shock in the room, wasn't there? You could hear the gasps.
the gasps in Committee Room 14 when Bob Blackman announced the results, and of course James Cleverly in the last ballot had topped it, so everybody thought that he was a shoo-in for the final two. And I think everybody was working on the assumption that if you take the party in terms of left and right and centre, centrist views, James Cleverly would have been the one nation centrist candidate versus either Kemi or Rob, who would represent the right. Now, there was lots of conversation amongst the chatter in classes yesterday as to whether there was some jiggery-pokery going on and whether some votes were lent from particular camps to keep other candidates off the ballot. It does appear that there were some Cleverly fans who, off their own back, not necessarily under instruction from James Cleverly or his senior leadership team, that they might have lent votes in previous rounds to other candidates. But to try and keep, if you're James Cleverly, you either want to face Rob or Kemi. Now, depending, the suggestion was that he would prefer to face Rob in the final two and therefore lent votes to Rob in the final round, but lent too many and ended up shooting himself in the foot.
Yeah, this would seem to be the issue, wouldn't it? A bit of overconfidence.
I think that's right. And look, in terms of what the camps and the teams were doing in their final day of campaigning before yesterday's round, it was sort of reported that James Cleverly was on the terrace, after topping the ballot the night before, then went to Boris Johnson's book launch, whereas Team Kemi and Team Rob, I think their teams were hitting the phones quite late into the night and quite early into yesterday morning. So it's a shame for James. He ran a good campaign and he had momentum at the back of Conservative Party conference, it seemed to me. But, the final two are who they are, and there's clearly now a direction of travel that the party will take, and the members will have to decide on November the 2nd, but not before having a debate hosted by GB News next Thursday, I think, on the 17th of October, which I think everybody will be wanting to tune into.
Yes, indeed. You can't miss that. How do you think Tory party members are going to feel about this? Do you think there'll be any disappointment about the lack of breadth of candidates? They're both to the right of the party.
I mean, I think there's always going to be disappointment if you sort of, you coalesce around a particular candidate, and particularly if you are a fan of James Cleverly, if you're part of that One Nation sort of caucus. But I think what the party has to do is, even though it's very easy to characterise it in that way between left and right, as I've just done and many people will do, I think the party has to move on from that. Talking about Brexit or talking about immigration shouldn't be a left or right-wing view. In fact, I can remember, well, history would tell me I wasn't there, back in, obviously, the 70s and 80s, there were debates around Brexit, but you had, great left-leaning figures like Tony Benn that was against the EU. That wasn't, you wouldn't categorise him as a right-wing politician, of course you wouldn't. So I think we need to move away as a party from categorising things in left and right. These are central issues. Immigration is not a right-wing issue. It's something that mainstream Britain now wants to talk about. So it's making sure that the candidates present themselves in a way in which they can deal with the challenges that the country wants us to talk about, but also presenting that vision of hope and optimism for the future.
So, I mean, basically, though, what you're saying is you've got to... Because you don't win a general election unless you win over the centre ground. It's like they're your swing voters, basically, aren't they?
Well, I think that's right, and that was the pitch that James Cleverly made at conference, that, you know, he wanted to win back not just reform voters by talking about immigration and talking about perhaps our position on the HCR or Rwanda. You know, arguably the Conservative Party spent too much time talking about things like Rwanda and was inward-looking and obviously hadn't delivered on what it said it would do in the past, which was to cut immigration from the hundreds of thousands to the tens of thousands. So it had lost the trust of the people in that sense. That's why reform have taken a bit of a surge. There's a vacuum there, and reform do seem to have been able to fill it. But it's about winning back those reform voters, as well as those Lib Dems, as well as those Greens, as well as those people that voted Conservative in 2019 in the Red Wall for the very first time. We've got to win back all parts of the nation, and that's the challenge that the next leader of the Tory party will face.
Charlie, just briefly, because we're almost out of time with you, but can we just touch on the IFS warning that Rachel Reeves must increase taxes by as much as £25 billion to avoid austerity?
And as you said in your opening, it would be the highest tax burden, having been labelled, Sir Keir Starmer labelled Sunak, you know, the tax expert yesterday. Well, Rachel Reeves will have to raise the tax burden even higher. But it's the IFS is saying it's in an attempt to avoid austerity. Now,
why avoid austerity then?
Well, that's the question. You know, there are always going to be efficiency savings that you can make, I think, particularly within big organisations like the NHS. I mean, West Streeton has said that, you know, it needs reform, and some of that reform, I'm afraid, will include looking at where the money is spent and where actually you can better invest and bring on new technology and not keep sort of throwing good money after bad.
OK. Charlie, for now, thank you very much indeed. As Charlie very skillfully pointed out, you can watch Robert Jenner and Kemi Badenoch battle it out for the Conservative leadership in a special live event here on GB News next Thursday, the 17th of October.
Now, at 17 minutes past 6, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
The Ukrainian President Zelensky set to visit Downing Street later this morning as part of a tour of European nations looking for support for Ukraine's resistance against Russia. He'll meet Sir Keir Starmer, with the Prime Minister's official spokesman saying the meeting will involve broad strategic discussions on allied support for Ukraine. It's going to be the second time they've met since Keir Starmer took office.
To the Middle East, where the Israeli Defence Minister has said that Israel's retaliation against Iran will be lethal, precise and surprising. The comments come as Foreign Secretary David Lammy is in the region, where he will reiterate calls for a ceasefire in Lebanon and in Gaza.
And the Worldwide Fund for Nature has warned of a catastrophic loss of wildlife species in their latest report. They say global wildlife populations have shrunk by, on average, 73% over the past 50 years, putting many ecosystems on the brink.
Let's have a check on the weather now with Alex.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For quite a few of us, it's been a very wet week. But today looks a lot drier, but also quite a bit colder. But there should at least be some autumn sunshine. Not too bright to start with across the southeast. Some cloud and showery rain here, but that is scooting away. Some showers feeding down the Irish Sea to clip Pembrokeshire and Cornwall, and a few showers grazing the east coast. But I say, thankfully, a lot drier than yesterday across northeast England. A scattering of showers over northern Scotland as well, but for many it's dry, it's fine. Some sunshine, but it is on the chilly side. Temperatures dipping only 8 or 9 Celsius in some places. Add on that wind and it feels even colder. Temperatures will certainly drop away through this evening as well under clear skies. One place that won't be as cold tonight is northwest Scotland, because you can see here quite a lot of cloud that's heading its way in, so that will actually help to keep the temperatures up. A few showers scattered about across the north of Northern Ireland down into south of Scotland this evening. A few of those across the north and the west of Wales, and still a few showers grazing eastern England. But for many places it'll be a dry evening, and quite quickly the cloud will melt away, leaving long clear spells, and the winds will ease down too. That is going to allow it to turn pretty chilly over particularly England and Wales. There's that cloud coming in across northern Scotland, helping to keep the temperatures up here, but also providing quite a few showers, some snow on the tops of the Scottish mountains. But elsewhere, dry, clear, and as I said, cold. Temperatures close to freezing even in towns and cities. Rural spots down to -2 or -3. So yes, for some, a frosty Friday morning, but a sparkling day of sunshine over the Midlands, South Wales, southern and eastern England. Quite a lot of cloud across Scotland, probably dry in southern Scotland, but showery rain elsewhere. A few showers for the north of Northern Ireland, but again, many places here will be dry and bright tomorrow. Temperatures, though, well, struggling into the low teens at best after that chilly old start. Enjoy your day.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Still to come, it's English Egg Week, believe it or not. Farmers are warning that they're feeling the pinch. We'll be looking at why next.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Catherine Richards and Jake Singleton-Hill featured on the reality show Love is Blind.
Well, Catherine and Jake are joining us now in the studio for Saturday Morning Live. Thank you very much for joining us. And this is perhaps not the end result that people might have thought that they'd be seeing at this point, because you were both on the show, but you didn't fall in love in the pods, did you?
No,
we didn't.
I rejected him.
You guys look great together.
Yeah.
Very happy as well. It seemed like you guys were really strong, and it almost seemed like Freddie, after he admitted to you that he'd cheated in the past.
I actually respected the fact that he told me up front. I didn't even want to have that conversation, obviously. That was a conversation that we got told to talk about. And I respected his decision, but I think he felt that I was holding this grudge towards him that she really doesn't like, and which was not, and he knew this, because off camera we had many conversations where I was like, thank you for owning up, like, we can just move on from this. But if anything, I think he just felt guilty the whole entire time, and he put that on me, which is fine, but yeah, there's obviously a lot that people don't see.
So for viewers who don't know, Love is Blind is where you go and seek love and romance, but you don't see who you're speaking to, right?
No.
So, Jake, why did you go on the show?
My parents actually met in a very similar way. So my stepdad was texting my mum. He'd basically stolen the number off of a friend because the friend had met my mum in Blackpool, and they were texting for like 6 months. They'd never met. So that premise of how they got together and the marriage that they had was stunning. And to build a relationship not based on looks before you met, I just found that just incredible.
So do you believe in that concept? Is it lust or love at first sight?
It's weird.
It's a bit of both.
I think, it's definitely a bit of both. And I always say, as you get older, your looks will change, but your personality will stay the same.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've got a question for you. How do you like your eggs in the morning?
I like mine with a kiss.
No, how do you actually like
Scrambled.
them? Yes,
Thank you. Sorry.
So do I. Not that you asked, but I like them scrambled as well. Runny
Scrambled.
Runny
yeah.
scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
And as yellow or as orange as you could make them. So super fresh eggs. That's the way to do it. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper.
A little bit of olive oil in there, actually. No. That's a Kevin Woodford, you know, the TV chef, Kevin Woodford. And it makes it so beautiful.
Really?
Oh, my God.
I might need to try that. I usually just do lashings of butter.
No, but a little bit of oil.
All right, I'll give that a go. Well, let us know what your favourite would be, boiled, poached or scrambled, because this week marks Egg Week, a chance for Britons to learn about the nutritional benefits of incorporating eggs into our daily diets, because they're very good for you, you know.
Yeah, Start Your Day in an Egg, though, was a campaign in the 80s, the 70s? A long time ago, but anyway. In the UK, we consume more than 35 million eggs every day.
And that's just us.
But farmers are worried about the long-term sustainability of British produce, as they're waiting, of course, for the budget at the end of the month. Jack Carson has the story.
Britons love eggs. Every year we consume 12.8 billion. In Leicestershire, Phil Crawley has been in egg production all of his life, with his mum and dad starting their business back in 1971.
What we've got here is the robot that unloads the eggs. These eggs have come straight from the farms. They're now being unloaded, put onto the conveyor, ready for them to be packed into the different sizes that you'll see in the supermarket.
Produced to the British Lion standard, he explains what makes our eggs so good.
The majority of our eggs are free range, as with most of the UK now, but it's grain-fed, it's looking after the chickens, caring what you do. Fresh is important, process is important. We try to do the best possible job we can and get it from the farm to the consumer as soon as possible.
At the end of October, Chancellor Rachel Reeves will announce the government budget to Parliament. With tax rises on the horizon, changes to inheritance tax might revoke the ability to pass on agricultural land tax-free in order to raise more money for the Treasury. Phil says it would be devastating for farmers.
It's a big worry for all farmers. Farmers have benefited from inheritance tax relief, which we're very grateful for, but farmers by their nature tend to be asset-rich and cash-poor. The farmer has a lot of worth in his land, but that land is the tools to do his job, and he needs that land. And if inheritance tax was abolished or diminished, it would put a huge strain on a lot of family farms and other farms, and it could potentially mean them being split up, which is devastating for families that have farmed for absolute generations. It's not about more money, it's about supporting. We've had some huge difficulties with weather. Massive areas of farmland have been flooded. Arable farmers have had a really poor crop this year. Farmers enjoy what they do. We have a passion for creating food, but we do need support when the price isn't what it should be and when the yields aren't what they should be, and it's not to do with the farmer's fault.
As these eggs get ready to hit the shelves, farmers hope October's budget hasn't been scrambled together with tax rises. Jack Carson, GB News.
Yeah, it's a worry, though. We've got to be very careful with our farmers.
Yeah, we do. And it's not just eggs, is it? It's all types of farming.
You can't...
Finding it very tough at the moment.
I mean, you can't instigate a load of stuff which is going to make it harder for farmers. It's ridiculous. We need to be more self-sufficient. We need to grow. It's all about growth, keeping farmers growing, all elements of business growing. That's the only way we get out of this mess.
Yeah. With the state of our world right now, self-sufficiency is more important than ever, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of our food and our energy. Anyway, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll say. Also, let us know your favourite way to have eggs in the morning.
Yeah, this is very, very important.
Very important conversation.
Right, time for the Great British Giveaway now. And before we tell you how you could win £36,000 in tax-free cash, we caught up with Angela from Wigan, who won £30,000 in September.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan and I won £30,000 with the Great British Giveaway. I could not believe it. I thought it was a joke. Winning the money enabled me to treat my children, which I've not been able to do for a while. And yeah, it's given us peace of mind now at night. I'd say to people who want to enter or are wondering whether to enter, to do it. It's one text, and if I can win, anyone can win, because I don't win anything. This is the first ever prize I've ever won, and it happens to people like me.
Ah, well, we know that Angela is a massive GB News fan, and she's probably watching now. So congratulations to you, Angela, and we hope you enjoy spending your winnings.
Can I just say, Angela, I think you're an angel by saying, well, it's allowed me to be generous to my children. What? I mean, I don't understand this.
It wouldn't be you, would it?
No, just spend it on yourself,
He'd be
darling.
buying gadgets. So you're very good, Angela. I'm glad it didn't go to you, and I'm glad it went to Angela.
Yeah.
Not that you can win.
No.
But you can, and here's how.
And good luck.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The A1 in Tyne and Wear is closed southbound from junction 69 at the Dunstan interchange to junction 65 at Birtley, where overnight roadworks have overrun. Train services aren't running between Sheffield and Doncaster, where overnight engineering works have overrun. And in Bedfordshire, the A421 is closed southbound, where overnight roadworks have overrun between the A6 and M1 near Bedford. Train services are suspended between Stevenage and Gordon Hill after a fire near the railway. On the M25 from Essex into Kent, it's down to 2 out of 4 lanes anti-clockwise, with the left-hand Dartford tunnels closed to move a breakdown that are queues from junction 2 for the A2. In Wiltshire, the A345 is blocked by a fallen tree at Enford between Draven and Upavon, and in Devon, the A380 is closed northbound south of Newton Abbot after an accident. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
6:34. Good morning. Paul Coyte's got the sport with actually some really, really tragic news.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. George Baldock, former Sheffield United defender, you might have seen this, he was found dead in his swimming pool yesterday. And it's... I mentioned it's almost like a horrible coincidence, the fact that England are playing Greece today, because he represented Greece, although through his grandmother, that was the family link that he played for Greece. I mean, he grew up here as an Englishman, but he still played some football for Greece. But it's best known for Sheffield United and played over 219 times for Sheffield United. In 2017, part of the team that played in the Premier League in 2019, 2023. You know, I could go through everything that he'd done, but it's just a really disturbing, upsetting story. When you think of a young man like that, no, we don't know what's happened. All we know, I mean, it makes it even more heartbreaking that his wife was trying to get hold of him. She was over here because he's playing for Panathinaikos in Athens. So he'd signed there during the summer. Nobody had heard from him, and he was found yesterday. So terribly, terribly sad news. And as you'd imagine, the amount of Premier League footballers and so many that knew him and some that played with him, like Harry Maguire, just all over social media with RIP and broken heart emojis and everything. So,
but
it's awful.
It's got to be mentioned, reflected at the match tonight, hasn't it?
I would think so. I mean, you would absolutely think so. And if you think that like I say, that the coincidence, the fact that England are playing Greece tonight, I would absolutely expect that. So I'm sure there's going to be, whether they do a minute applause or silence, but that I'm sure will happen tonight. Let's talk about the game anyway. So England do play Greece, and the last time that England played Greece in a competitive match, although it's in the Nations League. And when I say competitive match, I'm not a big fan of the Nations League, mainly because I don't really understand exactly how it works. I know it's a job, but quite frankly, there's different. It's making friendlies more interesting is the whole idea about it. So, but you know, in the middle of the Premier League, second break, and then there's another break coming up in November. So the last competitive game was in 2001. That was the famous David Beckham free kick. Do you remember that? It was England were 2-1 down. Desperately needed a goal, and we talked about it when Sven-Göran Eriksson died a couple of weeks ago. And Beckham needed to score, and it's in that documentary as well, and did, and then we ended up getting to the World Cup. So that was the last time we played Greece.
Yeah. Is it much of a challenge for Lee Carsley?
What, the actual game?
He's still got to make it... Well, in a bigger sense, because he's still got to make his mark, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, he's an interim manager, but obviously he's going to be thinking...
It's an audition.
I fancy this job. You know, and it's really interesting when you hear the way the players talk about him as well, because there was Jack Grealish was saying, you know, I'll be honest, you know, I was very disappointed with Gareth Southgate, but Lee Carsley, you know, and now every player is going, Lee Carsley, yeah, absolutely, because they know what side their bread's buttered, and they're thinking, anyway, Lee Carsley spoke yesterday. Harry Kane is going to be out because he is injured, so he's not going to be playing, and here's Lee Carsley at the press conference yesterday.
Harry's nursing an injury, a small knock. It's something that we won't take a chance with. So you know, it was a great conversation that I was able to have with John last night. You know, to have that responsibility to ask him to captain the team. It's a brilliant achievement for John. Something that he deserves.
Carsley talking to this John Stones, and he's talking now. So he'll be captain, interim manager. No other talk of any other manager. Nobody else is saying anything.
That's
so
true.
Who knows? I'll tell you a manager that people are talking about at the moment.
Jurgen Klopp.
Jurgen Klopp has now come out of retirement. Didn't last long.
No,
so it's Red Bull, and he's got a nice little job with Red Bull.
What is it?
You know what? It's head of global football at Red Bull.
What does that mean?
It probably means...
Lots of money.
Yeah, it probably means lots of money. We'll put you in front of everything, and then we'll say, oh, Jurgen is going to advise us. Have we got time to hear from Jurgen? We got time for a little Jurgen? Let's have a little Jurgen. This is Jurgen did a little post on Instagram yesterday.
Hi. Some of you might have heard it already, some of you won't. From 1st of January 2025, I will be head of global soccer of Red Bull, and I'm really looking forward to that. A few months ago, I said I don't see myself on the sideline anymore, and that's still the case. But I still love football, and I still love working, and Red Bull gives me the perfect platform for that.
A lot of Dortmund fans very unhappy where he used to be, because Red Bull or RB Leipzig are not liked by other German fans, and so it's kind of caused problems there. But it's going to be about making a few quid.
Well... Fair enough. It's probably quite an easy gig, actually.
And you can see where he is. He's in his villa in Mallorca. You can tell by the stone clad in the background.
Must be tough.
Yeah.
Very nice. Paul, we'll see you a little bit later on.
Thank you.
Let's return quickly to the United States now. These are live pictures from Tampa in Florida, where the state faces a once-in-1,000-year flooding event as Hurricane Milton sweeps across the state.
Yeah, the hurricane made landfall earlier this morning. It was Category 3 at that stage. It's been downgraded now to Category 1, making its way to Orlando. About 2 million people are at the moment without power.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Quite a few actors on this programme on a Friday night, and I always ask them the same question. Was you a nuisance at school?
I was quite naughty, yeah. I got the slipper in front of the whole school at the age of 6.
Really?
It was quite humiliating. And I got the cane as well a bit later on, yeah.
But it didn't do me any harm, did it, really?
No, do you know what? I think, the schools these days, things have changed a lot, haven't they? And you've got your kids assaulting teachers and stuff.
Well, we're not advocating violence at all.
Not at all. And but I think, my mother used to be quite strict with me as a boy, but I probably needed it. I did things like, I watched a Western once and I saw these the Indians firing blazing arrows into the cowboy's truck or whatever in the cabin. So I thought, I'll have a go at that. And I had a bow and arrow with some petrol in the garage. I found a rag and fired this flaming arrow into the next door neighbour's fence.
So you're an arsonist as well?
Yeah. Box of matches, absolutely. What excitement. And my mother ran out of the kitchen with a bowl of washing up water and threw it over the fence. What on earth are you doing?
Do not try this at home, by the way.
No.
So, what got you into acting, John?
Well, I went to the cinema every week because we didn't have a TV. Yeah. So I really got into watching these movies. And I used to come out and then I'd go to Saturday morning pictures as well. And I'd come out of the movie and I'd feel like Paul Newman for about an hour. Yeah. Or I'd pretend to be with my friends when we were younger. Yeah. We'd go playing games along the beach in North Kent. And Bay. And so that's how I got the taste of it, I guess. Then I joined an amateur dramatic society, local theatre group. I did Oliver, and I played Noah Claypole, who locks Oliver in the coffin. In Oliver.
Did you have a dog?
Yes, an untrained pit bull. And I got up onto the stage. I tied him to the table in the tavern. He did across the stage with the table. And on another occasion, he lifted his leg against the table as well. So
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Right, 6:43. Let's have a look at some of the front pages for you. The Times leads with the threat of a £25 billion tax bomb from the Chancellor.
The Daily Mail leads with business fury at Labour's revolution for workers.
The Guardian says the PM's vow to end austerity needs £25 billion of tax rises.
The Telegraph also on that £25 billion tax rise, which it says is on the way.
And The Sun reporting on Swiftgate and the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, admitting to attending a free gig at Wembley after she'd pressed for a VIP police escort for Taylor Swift.
Well, joining us now to go through what's making the news this morning is Suzanne Evans, a political consultant, and Fraser Myers, deputy editor at Spiked. Good to see you both this morning.
Good morning.
And Fraser, let's start with this £25 billion tax rise with pain on the way, warns the IFS.
Yes, so the budget that absolutely no one is looking forward to is looking even gloomier than we might have expected. The IFS is saying that for Keir Starmer to keep his promise of no public spending cuts, we will need an extra £25 billion of tax rises. Now, people will remember Rachel Reeves' famous pledge in the election not to raise taxes on working people. Mm-hmm. So we're sort of worrying what taxes might those be. How is the definition of working people going to be stretched beyond all credibility in order to make this work?
Well, there's no way that working people won't be affected by whatever they do.
Well, precisely. So, some of the things being floated are putting extra national insurance contributions on on employers when they pay into your pensions, various sort of pension raids. Inheritance tax could be another one. I mean, again, it's just everything just feels so doomy and gloomy at the moment. What's interesting is that this is going to be a bigger tax rise than Gordon Brown ever introduced, bigger tax rise than George Osborne ever introduced. People forget that George Osborne put taxes up, actually, because we think of him purely as, being the austerity chancellor and putting up and decreasing public spending. But, the raise in VAT was massive at the time in
And of course, he
2010.
massively brought in new taxes as well, as has every chancellor since. What I find really interesting is I don't know anyone that's looking forward to this budget. Everyone's absolutely terrified about it, whatever they do, however wealthy or otherwise they are. But it's really interesting. The Institute for Fiscal Studies, which is making the news again this morning, has been pushing so hard for these tax rises. They're seen as a sort of leading financial think tank, but they're so left-wing, I can't tell you. So yesterday, they wanted a reduction in pension lump sum payments. You know, if you're over 55, you can take up 25% of your pension up to, I think it's £280-something thousand. They want that reduced to £100,000. They've been pushing for capital gains tax to be payable when you die. Helen Miller, the head of tax at the IFS, said, "Oh, I'd love it if the government brought that in." That's not an independent think tank. That's a kind of left-wing think tank that's pushing for particular tax cuts.
So you think
they
we should
really
ignore
have been pushing
this?
for this. Well, I think you should. I mean, the whole issue about this £22 billion black hole that Rachel Reeves has apparently found, despite the fact that she was Shadow Chancellor for years before this black hole magically appeared. Presumably she was talking to the Treasury in her shadow role. That's just been basically doubled, if you like, by the £21 billion they're putting into Energy Secretary Ed Miliband's net zero plans.
Well, except that's over the next
5 years. 25 years, so they say, yeah. But, you know, the fact that they on the one hand say we need massive tax rises that are absolutely going to hammer most people, which is why we're all so terrified of the budget, and then they make a massive big spending commitment like that on something that they don't even know is going to work, I find quite extraordinary.
How much of it is expectation management?
Well,
so that at the end of the day, we come to the budget is over and we'll go, actually, that wasn't that bad.
Well, I hope so, but I think even if that is the case, they've played it very poorly, because if you think about, the only measure we really know about is this cut to winter fuel allowance, which has caused the Labour Party no end of trouble. There seems to be... Yes, we hope that there will be some goodies in the budget. There always is, and chancellors find ways to move bits of money around to surprise us. That would be nothing new, and I suspect Rachel Reeves has that planned as well. I mean, just on to talk about the black hole for a second, Rachel Reeves did tell the Financial Times about 6 months before the election that I will not have, because we now have the Office for Budget Responsibility, because of all this, there's a lot more transparency in the past than there used to be. She said she would not be able to come into Downing Street and pretend there's no money. She literally told us that, and yet this is precisely what she's doing. Yeah. There's broken promise there, there's going to be broken promises on tax rises. It's not a good start for this government.
No.
Suzanne, let's have a look at the Times, shall we? And this twist in the Tory leadership race, a real shock yesterday.
So, real shocker. Gasps in the chamber of the House of Commons yesterday as James Cleverly was booted out of the Conservative leadership contest. He was 18 votes ahead, we thought, yesterday. But now, no, Kemi Badenoch got 42 votes, so she topped the poll yesterday. Robert Jenrick got 41. So those are the two members of Parliament that are going to be put to the membership of the Conservative Party to see who's going to be the next leader.
What's going on with the Tories, then? With Tory MPs in particular?
So the theory
is... the person who was top of the list lost votes, the person who was third becomes top. I mean, it's all... There's some jiggery-pokery going on.
Well, the theory is that what happened and what MPs seem to have been telling the newspapers is that everyone was so certain that James Cleverly was going to win that they voted for their second preference rather than their first preference, and that effectively is how James Cleverly lost. So he lost, if you like, by accident. Well, it's interesting that the Times refers to the Conservative MPs as the most duplicitous and unpredictable electorate in the world. Now, I'm not sure I'd agree with that, but that certainly seems to be coming true yesterday.
I don't know. I mean, it's ridiculous. So the one person that Tory MPs really wanted to have the chance to take the job,
absolutely,
because they've been stupid, frankly, now isn't in the race.
In the race. The membership, however, I think will be delighted, because I think the Conservative Party membership is more right-wing than Conservative members of Parliament. So, of course, they've now got two centre-right candidates who will be on the ballot paper. The membership, I think, will be delighted on the whole. There will be some people who aren't, obviously.
There's not a breadth of choice, though, is there? It's two candidates who are on the right of the party.
Well, I think they're actually more different than people give them credit for. I think it certainly makes... I think it will make for a spicier leadership contest, because I think there is a genuine competition, actually. We don't know which people will break for. I mean, we should remember that Jenrick's conversion to the right is quite new. And I think a little bit phony myself. It feels a bit forced. He does a lot of, I think he does a lot of what I call vice signalling. You know, he's constantly saying quite outrageous things in order to show how right-wing he is. Whereas I think...
It's his experience firsthand with immigration policy that's made...
He has, and he
did
resign. Remember, he resigned his post of immigration minister because he didn't think Rishi Sunak was handling it right.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, there are things like, do you remember that story about him, you know, painting over the mural of Baloo the bear in a child migrant centre? I don't think anyone really believes that, you know, he said it was too welcoming. I mean, this was a centre for child refugees unaccompanied. Now, I think most people are concerned about illegal immigration. I don't think they are, you know, harbour a kind of anger towards unaccompanied children in that way. I think that's him... being a bit performative, perhaps overstepping, trying to signal that he's a bit right-wing, that he's, you know, signalling to maybe to the media to a certain extent, rather than having a sort of genuine concern about the border.
It'll be very interesting to see who the membership goes for. Personally, I think I'm not a Conservative, so I don't have a vote, but I think I'd be very happy to see either of them in the role. But if Kemi Badenoch gets it, I think she will really upset Labour, because Labour have never even had a woman leader, let alone a black woman leader.
Yes, but that's...
And Keir Starmer having to face her at the dispatch box every Wednesday afternoon is going to be quite something.
You see her winning a general election, though?
I beg your pardon?
You see her winning a general election?
Well, I think I could, yes. And don't forget, she's got well, we're assuming she's got it here, which of course she hasn't, but whoever gets it has got 4 years, if you like, to step into that role and to step up to that job.
Do you think either of them can unite the party? Because that's the biggest question at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the party is so fractured and divided. I'm always a bit dubious about this. Often the centrist candidates were saying that they were the ones to unite the party, but, you know, we had just as much dissent under Rishi as we did under Boris or anyone, or even under Liz. No, I think the party is pulling in different directions, fundamentally. These parties, I mean, the Labour Party too, you know, these parties are slightly outdated. The coalitions that they were formed to represent no longer hold. I'd like to see a bit of creative destruction in the party system, and you know,
creative destruction.
Let's have some new parties.
I just think this might be actually a gift to reform.
Do you think?
All of this, yeah. I think it might be. Because they're just going to try to I mean, Badenoch particularly will try to out-Farage Farage.
She will,
which you can't do. I mean, he's the king of his game.
He is indeed, but of course a lot depends on how reform performs in Parliament, how well they stick together at a party. You know, like it or not, Farage's parties have had a history of imploding and exploding and not going the distance.
We've got a minute and a half, Fraser. So let's talk about why wealthier children are more likely to drink, vape and do drugs. This is in the Daily Mail today.
Yeah, so it's an interesting study showing that, as you say, young children between the ages of 11 and 15 are considerably more likely, if they're wealthier, to be drinking. Now, the study doesn't actually have any answers to this. It says we need to do more research. One option it puts off is that they might have more access to alcohol, thinking of, you know, raiding the posh drinks cabinet, perhaps. But actually, this gap has been widening. So increasingly over time, wealthier people or wealthier children are more likely to be drinking and taking drugs. The only exception is smoking, where it's poorer children.
I just don't know why this is a shock. Because it's always the posh people who were doing cocaine at parties and things, not your ordinary folk.
I have to say, I was talking to friends about this just yesterday, before I saw this research. Good to see my colleague Rob Wilson quoted, by the way. But yes, we were saying exactly this, that everyone talks about it, you know, impoverished young people getting on drugs, but actually, no, it's some of the wealthiest in society that get hooked to.
The posh lot who can afford to do it.
Less strict parents, probably.
Yeah, probably too,
yeah.
Right, Fraser, Suzanne, thank you both very much indeed.
Let's have a look at the weather now with Alex Deacon.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For quite a few of us, it's been a very wet week. But today looks a lot drier, but also quite a bit colder. But there should at least be some autumn sunshine. Not too bright to start with across the southeast. Some cloud and showery rain here, but that is scooting away. Some showers feeding down the Irish Sea to clip Pembrokeshire and Cornwall, and a few showers grazing the east coast. But I say, thankfully, a lot drier than yesterday across northeast England. A scattering of showers over northern Scotland as well, but for many it's dry, it's fine. Some sunshine, but it is on the chilly side. Temperatures dipping only 8 or 9 Celsius in some places. Add on that wind and it feels even colder. Temperatures will certainly drop away through this evening as well under clear skies. One place that won't be as cold tonight is northwest Scotland, because you can see here quite a lot of cloud that's heading its way in, so that will actually help to keep the temperatures up. A few showers scattered about across the north of Northern Ireland down into south of Scotland this evening. A few of those across the north and the west of Wales, and still a few showers grazing eastern England, but for many places it'll be a dry evening, and quite quickly the cloud will melt away, leaving long clear spells, and the winds will ease down too. That is going to allow it to turn pretty chilly over particularly England and Wales. There's that cloud coming in across northern Scotland, helping to keep the temperatures up here, but also providing quite a few showers, some snow on the tops of the Scottish mountains. But elsewhere, dry, clear, and as I said, cold. Temperatures close to freezing even in towns and cities. Rural spots down to -2 or -3. So yes, for some, a frosty Friday morning, but a sparkling day of sunshine over the Midlands, South Wales, southern and eastern England. Quite a lot of cloud across Scotland, probably dry in southern Scotland, but showery rain elsewhere. A few showers for the north of Northern Ireland, but again, many places here will be dry and bright tomorrow. Temperatures, though, well, struggling into the low teens at best after that chilly old start. Enjoy your day.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In North Yorkshire, the A64 is closed eastbound off the A1M at Bramham, where overnight roadworks have overrun. Train services are suspended between Sheffield and Doncaster because of a signalling problem. In Powys, the A44 is closed each way off the A481 to and from Old Radnor after an accident. On the M5 in Gloucestershire, there's a lane closed southbound between junctions 11A and 12 from Gloucester to Quedgley because of flooding. Trains aren't running between Stevenage and Gordon Hill after a fire near the railway. In Essex, the A120 is partly blocked westbound by an accident between Ramsey and Wicks, causing queues towards Colchester. On the M25 from Kent into Essex, it's down to 2 out of 4 lanes anti-clockwise. The left-hand Dartford tunnel is closed because of a breakdown. There are queues from junction 2 for the A2. And in Wiltshire, the A345 is closed between Netheravon and Uphaven because of a fallen tree.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
There's Chuck.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. Hurricane Milton makes landfall in Florida, carving a path of destruction.
2 million homes without power and winds over 100 miles an hour, causing havoc.
Well, it's the third hurricane to hit this year in Florida, as experts are warning of a once-in-a-thousand-year flooding event as it makes its way across the state.
Tax raid fears as a leading think tank warns that taxes will need to rise by £25 billion in order to avoid austerity.
Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch are going to face off for the Conservative Party leadership as James Cleverly gets knocked out.
Cracking under pressure. Egg farmers scrambling to find ways to survive an increasingly strained industry.
Miranda Hart ties the knot at 51, so we're debating whether you can ever be too old to find love.
And in sport, England play Greece tonight, their first competitive game against each other, by the way, since the famous David Beckham free kick in 2001. Joe Root not only became England's leading run scorer in Test cricket yesterday, but he's completed his double century against Pakistan this morning. And the yells of...
Out!
Out!
Very good. At Wimbledon will become a thing of the past. It's technology for you.
A colder feel out there today, but for many of us, a brighter day. There'll be some sunny spells and just 1 or 2 showers. Join me later for a full forecast.
Just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. We've been talking this morning about what song you would die to.
Oh,
if you had a
cheery,
choice.
isn't it?
No, just imagine if you were in a care home, surrounded by your family, you're a good age, you've had a good life, and if you've got to choose a song...
By the way, you had your eyes closed as you were doing it there.
What would it be? I was like this. Ah! I was getting in the zone. This is from Marie Curie, would you believe?
Yeah, I'm surprised at Marie Curie for thinking this is good PR for them.
They've asked families what's on their loved one's playlist, and they've
To die to.
compiled a full list. My Way, Frank Sinatra comes in at number 1, which is a fantastic choice, I must
But they use that for everything. It's like when you go, what song are you going to get married to? What song? It's always My Way is going to be there. It's always the same one.
I wouldn't... I don't want to... I don't have a playlist to die to.
I think it's a nice way to go.
I don't.
Oh, come on. You can choose a nice dramatic show tune or something.
I don't. Please.
What do
No.
you have, Coity?
I don't know. I remember I'm Going Down by Bruce Springsteen was one. It's like, because I remember there was a Bruce Springsteen documentary and he was on stage and he saw this song. And I still remember it. It was so good because there was this guy that held up this sign in the crowd saying, it's not saying I'm dying, but it's saying my girlfriend has walked out on me. Bruce, can you console me? And he brought him up and he put his arm around him and he sang the song to him.
Aww.
So which kind of made him feel better. But probably something like that. You
You
know?
could have Cliff Richard. Why does the devil have all the good music?
Right, I don't know that one.
I'm not familiar.
Is that like a deep cut there from
You'll have
Cliff? Yeah, it's a good tune from Cliff.
It's like, you know, Love Actually, the film Love Actually,
Yeah.
and then Bye Bye Baby by the Bay City Rollers.
Bay City Rollers?
That's a good one.
You've got to... I think if you're going to... You do it something with a bit of humour because I think that's the way to go, isn't it? Don't you think? I say it's the way to go.
I think
Literally
so.
the way to go.
But they're not very humorous on this list.
Are they not? Yeah.
They're quite serious. I Will Always Love You, Whitney Houston comes in second. Over the Rainbow, Judy Garland.
Oh.
That's a good one. Girls Just Want to Have Fun. That's a good one.
That's a bit
If
random,
you're a
isn't
party animal,
Yeah.
you've had some good years.
I think it's all very weird.
You know what? I'm with you. I do. I find it all a bit...
It's all very odd.
I'll just share a few from you because I put it on my Instagram. So Patricia says Dreams, Fleetwood Mac. Stuart says Chasing Cars, Snow Patrol. That's a good one. James says Run by Leona Lewis, if you're familiar.
I think it's just like, what's your favourite song?
I've not heard of any of these.
Oh, have you not?
No.
Down Down by Status Quo, says Stuart.
Oh, right.
And Foo Fighters, Everlong, says Lee. Thank you.
Not familiar.
Charlie,
So there you
Ray,
go.
do you have a input?
We're not letting it go.
So I'm here, yeah.
Ellie's not happy with ours, Charlie. It's time to save the day.
I quite like Girls Want to Have Fun.
Yeah,
Girls
I knew
Just
you
Wanna Have
would.
Fun.
Yeah.
Or Everything's As If We Never Said Goodbye from Sunset Boulevard, I think it is.
Oh, that's
Oh,
it's a
dear,
nice
very
song.
moving. Yeah. Very theatrical,
Choice.
Charlie.
Well, frankly, I'm going to live forever, so none of it applies to me.
Oh, Oasis, that's a good one, yeah.
There's
Live
a
Forever
song in
by
that.
Oasis.
Oh, is
and then
there?
go,
Yeah.
actually, afraid not. So you don't want to play that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, let us know yours, gbnews.com/.
All right, let's have a look at the weather for you in the United States. It's grim. The worst hurricane in 100 years hitting the west coast.
Hurricane Milton made landfall on Florida's west coast just a few hours ago at around 8:30 p.m. local time, a little sooner and further south than expected, offering the state a glimmer of hope.
Listed as Category 3, maximum listed winds of 120 miles an hour. It's been reduced now to Category 1.
It is being called the worst in a 1,000-year flood, with the US National Weather Service issuing the highest level of flood warning to more than 2 million residents. 1.6 million people are currently experiencing blackouts.
I thought Florida was on the east coast.
But it's coming from the west coast of Florida.
Right.
Coming up
Very
that way.
confusing. What you need to do is make some sense of it with meteorologist at Weather Trending, John Hammond, who can explain all. Morning to you, John. I mean, why is this so bad?
Well, one reason actually, Stephen, is the unusual track that it's taken. I mean, if you take the storm we had a couple of weeks back, Helene, now that took a more sort of conventional track northwards across another part of Florida, but a less populated part of Florida, and it swept its way north through the Carolinas. This one, unusually, has tracked its way kind of west to east and slammed straight in to the west coast of Florida and hit particularly populated areas. Of course, it's the tourist belt from sort of Tampa and St. Pete eastwards through Orlando towards Daytona Beach. And Milton is following that track. So millions of people impacted by the combination of the storm surge. What's a storm surge? Well, storm surge actually is when the ocean bodily moves inland, because a hurricane is a vortex, it's a vacuum, and it sucks up the sea and dumps it inland. So you've got 15 foot of water and a combination of seawater, rain, and unfortunately sewage, which will be inundating coastal areas around Tampa Bay and southwards through Sarasota. That's going to take, well, days to subside, I'm afraid, because the land in Florida is so flat, it ain't going to run away very quickly. So you've got the storm surge to contend with. We've had, unfortunately, fatalities from tornadoes already. There will be further fatalities, I fear, from the combination of storm surge, tornadoes, and more widely, phenomenal amounts of rainfall. 5 inches of rain in an hour. We just cannot comprehend that much rain in a short space of time. Further heavy rain to come. Although the storm technically has weakened, i.e. the peak of the winds has gone down a little bit, still damaging winds sweeping their way west to east across Florida, gusts approaching 100 miles an hour. So there's going to be a lot of trees down, unfortunately, a lot of structural damage as well. So although, yes, it has weakened to some extent, I'm afraid Milton is still going to do colossal amounts of damage over the next several hours before, as you can see from that graphic, it sails off into the Atlantic. The sun will be out tomorrow across Florida. The winds will be light, but I'm afraid the clearing up operation will take weeks and weeks and weeks.
Passes. John, how much of a glimmer of hope, if at all, is it that the storm has downgraded? I mean, there was fears that it was going to be Category 5, which is the most powerful. It's now, I believe, a Category 1 storm.
It is a Category 1, but, Category 1 hurricane is still capable of doing a huge amount of damage with gusts higher than we typically see on this side of the Atlantic. 60, 70, 80 mile an hour gusts is enough to take trees down. It's enough to blow houses down, unfortunately, in some cases. And it's not just the wind, Ellie. It's the rain, actually, probably for many, which is going to cause the most disruption. As I say, Florida is very flat indeed. So although the hurricane has weakened to some extent, it's still a hurricane. And it's still going to produce a lot of rainfall, strong winds, and the clear-up operation, I'm afraid, will take a lot longer than that. As I said at the start, it's the fact that this is the tourist belt. There will be millions of people, some of them Brits, who won't have been prepared for this adequately enough. And one feature of this storm, Ellie, actually is how quickly it intensified over the last few days. It was just a little disturbance in the atmosphere just a few days ago across the Gulf of Mexico. And this rapidly intensified, supercharged by phenomenally warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. The seas in the Gulf of Mexico at the moment are, over 30 degrees. That's unusually warm. And that supercharged this storm and enabled it to develop so rapidly. So people didn't have a huge amount of time to prepare. And many of those, of course, tourists are not used to this sort of weather. So we'll see. We'll see how much damage there's been when the sun comes up and we start to see the scenes of devastation, which will inevitably unfold once we go through the day and the camera crews are out, and we'll see just how much in terms of flooding, in terms of storm damage as well, which has been brought across Florida. You can see from that animation, it is moving its way west to east. In a few hours' time, it will have cleared the east coast. And as I say, the sun will come out, the winds will have died down, but the damage will have been done. It's actually been quite a quiet start to the hurricane season. Meteorologists had thought this was going to be a very active hurricane season. Up to now, it hasn't been, but we're playing catch up now, both with Helene, which we had a couple of weeks back, now this one. There are no signs of another storm over the next few days hitting the same part of America, thank goodness, but we're only sort of halfway through the hurricane season, so there's time yet for further storms to develop. either in the Gulf of Mexico or in the Atlantic. So watch this space, and it won't be really until December when the hurricane season is finally over.
Oh, well, let's hope not much more happens. John, good to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
Still a long way to go, isn't it?
It is a long way to go. It's
hurricane
worrying.
season.
Right, let's look at things over here, should we? Because the Institute for Fiscal Studies is warning the Chancellor must increase taxes by as much as £25 billion if she wants to avoid, as she promised, austerity.
While Labour planned for only £9 billion of tax rises, the budget is expected to surpass post-election raids under Gordon Brown's 1997 government and David Cameron's in 2010.
Well, the IFS is now warning the tax burden will rise to 37.9%. That makes it the highest share in peacetime.
And in a shocking turn of events yesterday, James Cleverly has been knocked out of the Tory leadership race.
That leaves Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick. They were just 1 point apart. Badenoch on 42, Jenrick on 41. So they will now go head-to-head.
Well, joining us now is former Special Advisor to Michael Gove, Charlie Rowley. Good to see you, Charlie.
Good morning.
Should we talk about that shock result yesterday? The favourite, James Cleverly, now out of the race.
Well, yes, he is. Yes, he's out of the race. And that was a shock to everybody because he topped the ballot just 24 hours prior to yesterday's round. And that's led to two good candidates, Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick in the final two, both representing, commentators are saying, sort of one part of the wing of the Conservative Party. They tend to be on the right. And James Cleverly was sort of, presenting himself as the sort of the one nation, the centrist sort of candidate. So there's a bit of chattering this morning as to whether the party has sort of not presented to the members a real choice between the two, but MPs ultimately are the ones that have to work with closely, or closest, the leader of the opposition, the leader of the Conservative Party. And so they've decided to go down the route of presenting to the members Kemi and Rob Jenrick.
Yeah, well, that'll be interesting. Can we talk about 25 billion quid in tax, which the IFS claims the Chancellor's going to have to raise in the budget?
Yes, and look,
this would be a disaster.
Well, I think it will be. I mean, of course, as a Conservative commentator, I would say that, but it's going down a very, very difficult road now. This government, not least of all, having to cut winter fuel payments, something which nobody asked for, nobody voted for, at the same time as trying to give increases in public sector pay rises. The IFS is sort of saying that obviously the Labour government's got to raise taxes in order to avoid austerity, which again is a whole other conversation we can have, because actually there will
Guardian, page 7.
You can make, certainly in big organisations, maybe like the NHS, whether you cut funding in the NHS, it's something people are talking about. You can certainly reinvest it in better ways to get through the backlog. But, people are going to be worried. Taxes are going to have to go up. People will be looking at inheritance tax, they'll be looking at capital gains. Pensioners who are already, as I say, seeing that cut in their winter fuel will be worried between now and the 31st of October, when the budget is, to make sure that actually the Labour government are not raiding their pensions. So we'll have to wait and see exactly the detail in the budget. But with an increase in the number of people in this country, certainly through immigration, that's what the IFS have pointed to, means that the Labour government are going to have to either spend more, borrow more and raise more taxes.
OK, Charlie, thank you.
Well, joining us now is Shadow Business Secretary Kevin Hollinrake. Good to see you this morning, Kevin. And can we ask you about the Tory leadership contest, that shock result yesterday? James Cleverly, who was the favourite, now out of the race. What happened there?
Sorry about that. Yes, I really don't know. I mean, I was a supporter of Kemi Badenoch right from the start. So, I was focused on Kemi getting across the line, which I'm very pleased to say that she did. But all kinds of rumours swirling around about different voting patterns. I really couldn't comment. It's not something I was involved in.
You've got a choice now of someone to the right and someone more to the right in terms of party leader, which is all well and good in some respects, except how do you win over the undecideds? How do you win over people who voted for Labour, for the Lib Dems, for those who couldn't be bothered to go and vote in the last election?
That's a very good point, and that's why I'm supporting Kemi. I think she does reach out beyond our normal party boundaries. She's been very strong on women's rights, very strong on cultural issues, stands for fairness, opportunity, no nonsense. She's strong, she's bold. she's also very optimistic. And I think that's what we need to be. She's optimistic for the country and for every individual in the country. So, I do think Kemi can play that role very successfully.
Candidate to unite the party.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. And, I mean, listen, in this, in politics, like other walks of life, you can't be all things to all people. You're going to have your proponents and your opponents. That's the realities. But most of the people I speak to, certainly my membership, and that are very supportive of Kemi, and also very supportive of somebody who is willing to speak their mind. I think people have tired a little bit of people who are politicians who say nothing. She really says what she thinks, and she thinks what she says, and people welcome that. Of course, that's going to mean at times she says some things that people don't like. But I think if people would rather have that than somebody who just tries to please all the people all the time.
Can we talk about this 25 billion that the IFS says needs to be raised in taxes in the budget at the end of the month? I mean, look, we can debate how horrific this potentially could be for just about everyone. There's a fundamental question, though, isn't there, in all of this? Doesn't this indicate just what a mess our economy was in at the end of the last government?
No, it's not. It's at all. I mean, we were going to solve some of our spending challenges through improving productivity and reforming welfare. And Labour scrapped all that. And they also decided simply to hand over huge public sector pay rises and pay rises to train drivers without asking for any productivity gains in return, which you could have paid for those kind of increases through those productivity gains. There were no strings attached. Labour just bent over for the unions and just basically said, what was it take, and they gave them whatever they wanted in terms of pay rises. So basically that's where we are, and this will be more tax increases, more spending, more tax increases at the next budget, and that's what we all know is going to happen. They refused yesterday several times at the dispatch box. From Keir Starmer refused to say whether they would increase national insurance contributions from employers, which looks like another tax on business, and at a time business is really worried and confidence is dropping because of potential tax increases, but also because of the workplace reforms they're bringing in, which again are dictated by the unions. The unions say jump and Labour simply say how high.
It's not just Labour, though, is it? Because Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson oversaw the largest tax rises since the Second World War. That was also from the IFS about this time last year.
Well, we also pumped £500 billion into the economy to try and get us through the pandemic, a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, once-in-a-century event. And that was a huge amount of money that went in there to save businesses. But it was predicted that 500,000 businesses would go to the wall and millions of people would be put out of work. And that's what that money was there for, that £500 billion. And we forget that very quickly. And, of course, we have to get some of that money back, which is increased taxes temporarily. But we are the party of low taxes. We will get back to lower taxes. You saw in recent months the government, the Conservative government, has started to reduce taxes, reduce national insurance, which is welcome. What you're going to see with this government is simply more tax and more spending.
All of this is being framed as this is what the amount of money which needs to be raised to avoid austerity. Is austerity such a terrible thing?
Well, you don't need to have austerity to balance the books. You need to have growth, which we all agree on that we should have growth. But I've got to say, these huge radical workplace reforms and potential business tax increases are not conducive to growth. But then you look for efficiencies and productivity. That's how we paid for previous public sector settlements. But Labour didn't ask for any of that. And that's really is a major flaw in the whole approach to this. So there are ways of doing this without it impacting on higher taxes. We need to get more efficient. Productivity has stalled, particularly in the public sector. It's quite reasonable, I think, that people would say we're putting more and more money into the health service, which should expect more and more output. And that's not what we're seeing. Now, we need to make it more efficient. That's why we plan to reduce the number of managers in the NHS. That's why we have a plan to improve productivity in the NHS. Let's see what Labour bring forward. But I don't think that'll be their focus. Their focus will be the unions dictating what they should do with the public sector and across the piece with these workplace reforms, which are massively damaging. You had the Federation of Small Businesses today, which are the backbone of our economy, coming out and saying this will inevitably cost economic inactivity. So otherwise, inevitably, it will cost jobs. That's really bad for our economy, really bad for individuals, citizens, about access to jobs and opportunities. This is what we're heading towards, and it's not good news.
Kevin Hollinbrake, good to see you this morning. Thanks
you.
very much indeed. I just think the idea that we say austerity, but it's about efficiency savings and all the rest of it. Well, so there's got to be scope for some of that.
Well, that's what you think. gbnews.com/your say. We're just talking about the Tory leadership contest. Just as a reminder, you can watch Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch battle it out for the Conservative leadership in a special live event here on GB News next Thursday, the 17th of October.
Right, let's have a look at the weather for you today with Alex.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For quite a few of us, it's been a very wet week. But today looks a lot drier, but also quite a bit colder. But there should at least be some autumn sunshine. Not too bright to start with across the southeast. Some cloud and showery rain here, but that is scooting away. Some showers feeding down the Irish Sea to clip Pembrokeshire and Cornwall, and a few showers grazing the east coast. But I say, thankfully, a lot drier than yesterday across northeast England. A scattering of showers over northern Scotland as well, but for many it's dry, it's fine. Some sunshine, but it is on the chilly side. Temperatures dipping only 8 or 9 Celsius in some places. Add on that wind and it feels even colder. Temperatures will certainly drop away through this evening as well under clear skies. One place that won't be as cold tonight is northwest Scotland, because you can see here quite a lot of cloud that's heading its way in, so that will actually help to keep the temperatures up. A few showers scattered about across the north of Northern Ireland down into south of Scotland this evening. A few of those across the north and the west of Wales, and still a few showers grazing eastern England. But for many places it'll be a dry evening, and quite quickly the cloud will melt away, leaving long clear spells, and the winds will ease down too. That is going to allow it to turn pretty chilly over particularly England and Wales. There's that cloud coming in across northern Scotland, helping to keep the temperatures up here, but also providing quite a few showers, some snow on the tops of the Scottish mountains. But elsewhere, dry, clear, and as I said, cold. Temperatures close to freezing even in towns and cities. Rural spots down to -2 or -3. So yes, for some, a frosty Friday morning, but a sparkling day of sunshine over the Midlands, South Wales, southern and eastern England. Quite a lot of cloud across Scotland, probably dry in southern Scotland, but showery rain elsewhere. A few showers for the north of Northern Ireland, but again, many places here will be dry and bright tomorrow. Temperatures, though, well, struggling into the low teens at best after that chilly old start. Enjoy your day.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now it's time for the Great British Giveaway. And before we tell you how you could win £36,000 in tax-free cash, we caught up with Angela from Wigan, who won 30 grand in September. She told us what that was like.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan, and I won £30,000 with the Great British Giveaway. I could not believe it. I thought it was a joke. Winning the money enabled me to treat my children, which I've not been able to do for a while. And yeah, it's given us peace of mind now at night. I'd say to people who want to enter or are wondering whether to enter, to do it. It's one text, and if I can win, anyone can win, because I don't win anything. This is the first ever prize I've ever won, and it happens to people like me.
Well done, Angela. If you want to get your hands on 36 grand, here's how.
You really can. Good luck.
Yes, good luck. Now, still to come is British Egg Week, and farmers are scrambling to deal with what could come in Rachel Reeves's budget in October. We'll be talking about that next.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits.
Chemistry tonight is electric.
As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, how do you like your eggs in the morning? Boiled, poached or scrambled? Well,
Are there any other ways? I don't know.
No, I don't think there is. Wait, did we say fried?
No. Oh, no, fried.
Oh, do you know what? There's a story in the paper this morning. I'm not going to be able to find it now. Gen Z, Gen Z don't like fried eggs.
Weirdos.
They only like them poached on avocado.
Oh,
anyway,
no,
that's a whole other story. Well, we're talking about this because this week marks Egg Week, a chance for Britons to be informed on the benefits of incorporating eggs into our daily diets.
Yes, in the UK alone, we consume 35 million eggs a day, but farmers are worried about the long-term sustainability of British produce in general because of the budget at the end of the month and what that could mean. Jack Carson's been investigating.
Britons love eggs. Every year we consume 12.8 billion. In Leicestershire, Phil Crawley has been in egg production all of his life, with his mum and dad starting their business back in 1971.
What we've got here is the robot that unloads the eggs. These eggs have come straight from the farms. They're now being unloaded, put onto the conveyor, ready for them to be packed into the different sizes that you'll see in the supermarket.
Produced to the British Lion standard, he explains what makes our eggs so good.
The majority of our eggs are free range, as with most of the UK now, but it's grain fed, it's looking after the chickens, caring what you do. Fresh is important, process is important. We try to do the best possible job we can and get it from the farm to the consumer as soon as possible.
At the end of October, Chancellor Rachel Reeves will announce the government budget to Parliament. With tax rises on the horizon, changes to inheritance tax might revoke the ability to pass on agricultural land tax-free in order to raise more money for the Treasury. Phil says it would be devastating for farmers.
It's a big worry for all farmers. Farmers have benefited from inheritance tax relief, which we're very grateful for, but farmers Farmers by their nature tend to be asset rich and cash poor. The farmer has a lot of worth in his land, but that land is the tools to do his job, and he needs that land. And if inheritance tax was abolished or diminished, it would put a huge strain on a lot of family farms and other farms, and it could potentially mean them being split up, which is devastating for families that have farmed for absolute generations. It's not about more money, it's about supporting. We've had some huge difficulties with weather. Massive areas of farmland have been flooded. Arable farmers have had a really poor crop this year. Farmers enjoy what they do. We have a passion for creating food, but we do need support when the price isn't what it should be and when the yields aren't what they should be, and it's not to do with the farmer's fault.
As these eggs get ready to hit the shelves, farmers hope October's budget hasn't been scrambled together with tax rises. Jack Carson, GB News.
Well, we're joined now by egg farmer Mikey Scott. Good to see you this morning, Mikey. And whereabouts are you? Tell us about your farm and the challenges that you're facing at the moment.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having us on your show. We're just based in East Lothian, just southeast of Edinburgh. So we have been farming there for just over 100 years now as a family. I think there's quite a few things to be concerned about. Mainly inheritance tax changes which could come into play. That would obviously make farming a lot more difficult to hand the farm down to the next generation, as obviously farmers are mainly asset rich and obviously cash poor, which tends to be the case. So this would definitely split more farms up, make farming a lot more difficult, considering all those payments for the last 5 or 6 years now haven't really increased in terms of government support, which is definitely quite a worry at the moment.
Well, it will be, I mean, as you say, if your family's been there for 100 years on this, I mean, it would scrapping land inheritance tax relief would basically mean an end to family farming, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. The only positive to that, it would create a lot more opportunities for the younger farmer. Obviously, the average age of a farmer now is quite high, so it would create some opportunities for the next generation coming up through. But it would definitely increase food. The food prices alone, obviously, cheap. The days of cheap food now are past, I would say. It seems to be getting worse and worse at the moment. We see it in the supermarket today. Food prices are a lot higher than what they were even 2 years ago.
Yeah, and food security is so important as well, isn't it? I mean, especially with the state of our world right now, having our own food and securing our own food is really important. There's a poll out today that said that 61% of people start their day with poached eggs. I mean, we are heavily reliant on eggs as a nation, aren't we?
Oh, massively, yeah. We are self-sustaining in eggs, but I think everyone's got to keep eating eggs at the end of the day, and they're great help, great part of your daily diet. So I think long may that continue, and it's a very cheap protein for consumers. Obviously, the price of eggs has increased, mainly off the back of the Ukraine war, and feed prices and electric prices going through the roof. The prices should have really increased before they had, so that was the main reason that there was a shortage, because supermarkets weren't willing to increase the price quick enough for the farmers.
We are so reliant on eggs, Mikey, yet we don't really think about their production in a lot of senses. I was quite shocked looking at some of the images in our report of just what an industrial scale things these eggs are produced on. I mean, what are you churning out every week in terms of eggs?
So on the whole farm, we'll be just under 1 million eggs a week.
1 million?
What?
Yeah.
How many chickens have you got?
So just over 150,000 between 3 sites. But this is kind of normal now, I would say. You need scale to produce food efficiently, and obviously, for a reasonable price as well. So at the end of the day, it's all driven by scale now.
Wow, I'm
Million
absolutely.
eggs.
I'm stunned. I'm stunned. Well, your girls are performing well. Long may it continue. Mikey, really good to see you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks for your time.
I mean, we all love
Thank you very much.
Unless you're a vegan, of course.
Unless you're vegan.
Then we all love an egg, don't we? Nice scrambled egg, fried egg.
Yeah.
Fried egg sandwich.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
But what you can't do is afford to do... I mean, the Chancellor needs to be making sure she's not going to do stuff which is going to damage a farm like that.
Yeah, and our farming communities are so important, aren't they? And remember that egg shortage? That was awful. I couldn't get my hands on eggs. And that's only when you realise how important it is and how reliant we are on our farmers.
Okay. Right, we're going to take a short break. We're back with a new gig for Jurgen Klopp. Paul will have all the latest in a moment.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In North Yorkshire, the A64 is closed eastbound off junction 44 of the A1M at Bramham, where overnight roadworks have overrun. In Powys, the A44 is closed each way between the A481 and Old Radnor after an accident. On the M6 in the West Midlands, 2 lanes are closed southbound at junction 10, the Walsall and Wolverhampton turn after an accident. It's slow towards St Pass there. Trains aren't running between Gordon Hill and Stevenage after a fire near the railway. In Essex, the A120 is partly blocked where a car's overturned between Ramsey and Wicks, causing queues towards Colchester. On the M4 in Berkshire, the outside lane is closed eastbound after an accident between junction 6 and 5 near Slough, causing delays. And there are a couple of problems in Devon. Firstly, the A39 is closed in both directions between Horns Cross and Bucks Cross, where a car's overturned, and the A380 is closed northbound south of Newton Abbot after an accident. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about.
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Right, sport with Paul. Lot to get through and not a lot of time, Paul.
OK.
But some tragic news.
Yeah, George Baldock, former Sheffield United defender, has passed away. I mean, it's a really awful story. He's found dead in his swimming pool in Athens. Played 31 years old. God. I mean, we don't know what's happened. England play Greece tonight, and he represented Greece, although English himself, due to a Greek grandmother, played 10 games for Greece, was playing in Athens, playing for Panathinaikos. Played over 200 games for Sheffield United. Most football fans would know who he is. So awful news, and it happened yesterday. So we don't know any more about it, apart from the fact that he was found in his swimming pool. And his wife was trying to find him, and she was in England, and that's when the news broke. So anyway, that's awful news. And
it's got to be reflected tonight.
It's got to be. I mean, it would be. Surely it is. I mean, when you've got and it's almost like this weird, awful coincidence that it's on the eve of playing Greece. So that's going to be at Wembley tonight. It's a 7:45 kickoff at Wembley. So I'm sure there will be a minute's silence or a minute's applause that they like to do anyway. I always find a minute's silence a little bit more respectful. You know, I think,
yes, I do.
I prefer that. I think it's something to do with when you have opposing teams. I think they worry about boos. It's never going to happen in a situation like George, of course. But I think that's the reason they do the applause. It's it's kind of nice, but there's nothing like the true minute silence. Anyway, that's going to be happening tonight. England versus Pakistan, which is going on at the moment in Pakistan. If this is probably one of the most boring games because it's going to be a draw. England is still batting on day 4. Pakistan got 556 all out. England currently 628 now for 3. Joe Root is on 228. So yesterday he broke the record for the most runs scored by any English Test batsman in history. So he scored more runs there, and he could even break a record by scoring more runs in one innings than anybody else. Wow. There's still 140 still to go. Len Hutton at the Oval in 1938, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
I am.
And finally, for now, we got time for Wimbledon. How are we doing? Are we flying through this?
Yes.
Wimbledon. 147 years of Wimbledon, 147 years of line judges. You see them marching out. They all look very smart because all in the polo Ralph Lauren in the stripes and the white trousers and skirts, etc. And they sit there and the yells of out, whoa, all this. Yeah. It's all coming to an end because technology seems to have now caught up with Wimbledon as well. The Australian Open got rid of it. The US Open got rid of line judges. So now it's all going to be electronic, and I think it's a shame.
I think it's a shame.
Wow, you both agree on that one. Yeah. You both agree in harmony on that one. So maybe the answer is there like some sort of balance? So maybe you could have the beep in their ear and someone can shout out, because to have a beep...
It's not the same. Oh, we're very clean today.
Honestly, it's like Peters and Lee.
Isn't it? Oh.
There's one for the kids.
Lovely.
There we are. That's all I got for you.
All right, we'll see you a little bit later on. Thanks very much indeed. We've got the papers with Fraser Myers and Suzanne Evans in just a moment.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Earlier this week, Olympic swimmer Adam Peaty finally proposed to his girlfriend, because I've been waiting for this, the daughter of Gordon Ramsay, with a gorgeous yellow diamond ring.
Yeah, so the demand for coloured diamonds in the last 10 years has soared by, guess how much, 77% between 2010 and 2019. Joining us now to tell us more about some of the hottest trends in the diamond world is dealer to the stars, Neil Dutson. Good morning, Neil.
Morning, Ben.
And I've got one of your exemplary examples. Look at this bad boy.
So
What's this one?
That's a very rare Muso Colombian emerald. And it's alpine green translucent, so it's a really stunning
See if
colour.
we get a close-up.
So pretty impressive.
Can I be very crude and ask how much this is worth?
So value is £200,000.
How much, sorry?
£200,000. Now, the reason is its rarity. It's minor oiling. It's very, very, very pretty. The two diamonds on the side are D-colour flawless diamonds, just to accentuate the setting.
Neil, how did you get into diamonds?
I studied diamonds in Antwerp. So Antwerp used to be the diamond capital of the world, really. Yeah. 85% of the world's diamonds go through Antwerp, or used to. And now Dubai has taken over. I just went to a school there. I learnt about diamonds, and I just didn't want to be seen off in the future.
Neil, I'm very concerned I'm going to drop 200 grand's worth of diamonds into my cup of tea, so can I give it back to you?
Absolutely.
But I can hold one if you like.
Oh, well, I've got
Neil.
a lovely one here.
Thank you.
So this is a fancy vivid yellow. It's 8 carats.
This is my dream ring, just so you know, for this hand. This would be
Is it big
amazing.
enough?
So what would I call this? A yellow?
So that's a natural fancy vivid yellow diamond. Value £300,000. So,
it fits
depends
like
where
a
you're
glove.
buying it from.
It fits like a glove, Neil.
Oh,
maybe it's a sign it's meant to be mine.
It's definitely a sign, yeah.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're going through the papers now with Suzanne Evans and Fraser Myers. Very good morning to you both.
Good morning.
And Suzanne, let's talk about workers' rights, shall we?
So finally, after lots of months and months of talking about it, Labour have put forward their draft legislation on workers' rights. Basically, you're going to get the right to sue your employer for unfair dismissal from day one of your employment. Flexible working is going to become the default position. They've talked a long time before the election about banning exploitative zero-hours contracts, and that legislation is still there. But they don't really still seem to tell you what exploitative is. Now, this is obviously all thrown up a lot of concerns, and Angela Rayner and Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, have been talking for a long time about how they want growth in the economy. And some of us fail to see how they can get growth when they're putting more and more red tape on businesses and employers. And the FSB, the Federation of Small Business, has come straight out of the blocks to condemn this, saying it's rushed, clumsy, chaotic, jeopardises employment, is likely to lead to economic inactivity because employers are just not going to be taking people on under this new regime. Also, I'm very interested in the zero hours thing. Labour have long railed against this, but interestingly, there was a report out this week from academics at the London School of Economics that did some research that suggested that actually zero hours jobs were very popular. And in fact, they advertised two sets of jobs, and they had a 25% larger intake for the zero-hours contract job than they did for permanent employment.
Yeah, but it's people who want, students or people who have that flexibility.
People who want to work part-time.
It's people who want to work full-time but can only get a zero-hours contract.
That's a different
problematic.
Issue. Yeah.
Isn't it? So I can understand why that needs to be looked at, but it's the rest of it. It's these rights from day one. It's actually going to, particularly small businesses, is going to frighten them.
I think that is a problem. 2 years at the moment you have to wait for certain rights to kick in. I think that's too long, but day one is also too short because you can make employment mistakes.
Of course,
and someone might just not for no reason. Anyone in good faith, people might not have predicted someone might not be a good fit, and you might have to let them go, and you'd think no harm done. But if you can suddenly sue your employer for unfair dismissal, then again it just means that people think twice about employing someone. If you look over on the continent, if you look at France, there are lots of really strong workplace rights, and it's excellent if you can get a job. It's very difficult to sack you. But, they have very high youth unemployment. And it means particularly young people they're less willing to take a risk on. Another element of Labour's plan is to equalise the minimum wage, because at the moment you get paid slightly less. The minimum wage is slightly lower if you're 18, 19. But again, that, I think, or under 18. Again, I think that incentivises firms at the moment to take a punt on younger people, give them a shot at their first job. If it seems that, when you hire an 18-year-old, you basically have no right to get rid of them if they're no good. You have to pay them the same amount as someone potentially older. I think that just sends the wrong incentive.
Why is it then that on an issue like this, a lot of this is very good, on the surface looks fantastic. You could just look at the headline and go, actually, this makes a lot of sense. The minute you dig into it, you realise it doesn't work.
This is always the way with policy. And I must admit, I've read the Labour Party manifesto, and I thought this has been put together with sound bites that they think sounds good and appeals to their core supporters. But actually, when you dig down into the detail, you look at the unintended consequences of their policies, this is why it all falls apart. They've also, of course, had to, because there's been such kickback from employers' organisations on these policies, they've had to put in 8 reasons why you don't have to allow flexible working, for example. So you think they put in some caveats for businesses as well. So is this really going to make any difference? Because particularly smaller businesses that can't afford this massive new amount of red tape and to check that they're complying with it all the time are going to find ways to get around it, I think.
And it would also be good to see more enforcement of the existing rules. This is always a problem with people who create so many new laws and then they don't get enforced anyway. Or at least, there are so many companies that are acting in bad faith. There's a lot of exploitation going on. There's a lot of people exploiting illegal migrants, kind of almost like practices akin to slavery that are happening all over this country. Let's crack down on that a bit more, I think, before we put new rules on, businesses that are already struggling.
Fraser, let's take a look at The Guardian, shall we? And the UK's bonkers plan to reach net zero by importing fuel from North Korea.
Yeah, so what a lot of people might not know is that when we talk about reducing our carbon emissions or, the amount that we generate from renewable energy, actually a significant chunk of that comes from biomass. So that means burning wood pellets.
Yeah.
And the vast, vast majority of those are imported. About 75% of them at the moment come from forests in North America. Now, these trees are grown specifically to be burnt for energy, and so that's why it's said to be, carbon neutral, because then they plant the trees again.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't quite work out like that, but, it's a bit of a funny accounting trick. But obviously, as the demand for biomass grows, as the world moves towards more renewable energy and more biomass, that we're going to run out of, we won't have enough trees in the traditional places. So the government is looking to places like North Korea, Afghanistan, other various...
These places where we don't want to increase their economies.
Yeah, but places that we wouldn't want to do much trade with. Places that, by the way, have also given no indication that they're interested in doing this with us.
Right.
But it is apparently part of our plan to get to net zero. I mean, it's a reminder that this is, the 2050 target is just not going to happen.
It's not net zero, is it? It's not zero. It's completely barking mad, I think. One of my neighbours has got a biomass boiler. You will not believe the amount. He has to put wheelbarrows full of wood into it. Yeah. And here we have Ed Miliband talked about it earlier, building these great big carbon capture machines. Just build more trees. Stop burning them. Look at other sources of energy. I think this is so short-sighted. And as you say, North Korea, Afghanistan, they probably don't even want to send us their wood anyway.
I don't even know why we're not going nuclear.
Well,
it should be, absolutely.
I think nuclear solves all the problems that people claim they want to solve because it is carbon-free. It is also quite cheap. It's reliable. So it's cheap, secure, reliable, carbon-free. But I do think that there's an element of environmentalism is an ideology. It's not just about solving a practical challenge. And I do think there's a lot of people who relish actually the idea that we'll be using less energy in the future, or the idea that we will actually have a world of less abundance.
I just cannot understand how trees and destroying trees can possibly be seen as being environmental friendly. Maybe
they are renewable.
I don't
renewable.
get it. Yeah, but over about 100 years, yeah.
Well, basically, it's a reminder that there will need to be a lot of kind of accounting tricks, essentially, to make the UK look carbon neutral by the end of it.
It's the whole carbon offset thing.
It's like medieval pardoning, isn't it? It's the old, you pay us so much money and we'll absolve your sins in purgatory. It's like a modern-day version, I think, of that.
Well, on that note,
philosophy.
Thanks very much indeed.
Fraser, Suzanne, thanks very much. Let's have a look at the weather with Alex.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For quite a few of us, it's been a very wet week. But today looks a lot drier, but also quite a bit colder. But there should at least be some autumn sunshine. Not too bright to start with across the southeast. Some cloud and showery rain here, but that is scooting away. Some showers feeding down the Irish Sea to clip Pembrokeshire and Cornwall, and a few showers grazing the east coast. But I say, thankfully, a lot drier than yesterday across northeast England. A scattering of showers over northern Scotland as well, but for many it's dry, it's fine. Some sunshine, but it is on the chilly side. Temperatures dipping only 8 or 9 Celsius in some places. Add on that wind and it feels even colder. Temperatures will certainly drop away through this evening as well under clear skies. One place that won't be as cold tonight is northwest Scotland, because you can see here quite a lot of cloud that's heading its way in, so that will actually help to keep the temperatures up. A few showers scattered about across the north of Northern Ireland down into south of Scotland this evening. A few of those across the north and the west of Wales, and still a few showers grazing eastern England. But for many places it'll be a dry evening, and quite quickly the cloud will melt away, leaving long clear spells, and the winds will ease down too. That is going to allow it to turn pretty chilly over particularly England and Wales. There's that cloud coming in across northern Scotland, helping to keep the temperatures up here, but also providing quite a few showers, some snow on the tops of the Scottish mountains. But elsewhere, dry, clear, and as I said, cold. Temperatures close to freezing even in towns and cities. Rural spots down to -2 or -3. So yes, for some, a frosty Friday morning, but a sparkling day of sunshine over the Midlands, South Wales, southern and eastern England. Quite a lot of cloud across Scotland, probably dry in southern Scotland, but showery rain elsewhere. A few showers for the north of Northern Ireland, but again, many places here will be dry and bright tomorrow. Temperatures, though, well, struggling into the low teens at best after that chilly old start. Enjoy your day.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In North Yorkshire, the A64 is closed eastbound off junction 44 of the A1M at Bramham, where overnight roadworks have overrun. The M62 in West Yorkshire is blocked eastbound by an accident between junctions 27 and 28 from Kilderson to Tingley, causing queues. On the M6 in the West Midlands, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed southbound just before junction 10, the Wilson and Wolverhampton turn after an accident, with queues from junction 10A for the M54. In Powys, the A44 is closed each way between New Radnor and Penny Bont after an accident. Great Northern Rail services aren't running between Stevenage and Gordon Hill after a fire near the railway. On the M25 in Kent, there are long anti-clockwise delays from just after junction 3 for the M20 to the Dartford tunnels after a breakdown earlier. And on the M4 in Berkshire, the outside lanes closed eastbound after an accident between junction 6 and 5 near Slough, causing delays. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Hurricane Milton makes landfall in Florida, carving a path of destruction.
Nearly 2.8 million homes are without power, and winds of over 100 miles an hour are causing havoc.
It's the third hurricane to hit Florida this year. Experts are saying it could lead to a once-in-a-thousand-year flooding event as it makes its way over the state.
Tax raid fears as a leading think tank warns taxes need to raise by £25 billion to avoid austerity.
Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch to face off for the Conservative leadership. James Cleverly, who was a favourite, is knocked out.
Cracking under pressure. Egg farmers scrambling to find ways to survive an increasingly strained industry.
And as national treasure, Miranda Hart ties the knot at 51. We're debating, can you actually be too old to find love? Or quite.
And in the sport, England play Greece tonight. I was a national treasure. England play Greece tonight in their first competitive game since the famous David Beckham free kick in 2001. Joe Root not only became England's leading run scorer in Test cricket yesterday, but he's completed his double century and still batting against Pakistan. And the yells of
out,
out
at Wimbledon will sadly become a thing of the past. Technology.
A colder feel out there today, but for many of us, a brighter day. There'll be some sunny spells and just 1 or 2 showers. Join me later for a full forecast.
Just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Your discussions about who did the best out call was very impressive. What did you say, Ellie? Yours was late, but it was worth waiting for.
Yeah, Stephen keeps criticising me, saying that I'm late, and I say it's worth the wait.
No, it's not, because I'll tell you what she's doing, ladies and gentlemen. She's missing her cue.
So,
which is a cardinal sin in this business. You're missing your cue.
No, but then you do it, and then I do it even better.
So maybe you would go. So as the serve comes in, everybody's waiting
with bated breath,
and then you'll go.
And then
out.
And everyone's waiting,
Okay,
and it's worth
but
the wait.
unfortunately, that's not going to happen anymore.
Is it the same people who do that as sell newspapers?
Yeah, still.
Exactly.
Or on the market stall.
That's it. Yeah, there used to be a guy in London who used to sell the Standard, but I think it was around King's Cross, but you couldn't understand. He goes, what are you saying?
Yeah, but it's brilliant. But it's stuff like that that's dying out.
You know what?
I love all of that.
So do I. I miss that too.
Yeah, the sound of Wimbledon.
Yeah.
It's that market stall. Can I say it?
That's what I just said. The market, 2 for a pound.
Well, yeah, but you say I love a market stall, but where I am now, the market stalls don't sell that sort of stuff anymore.
They're not?
No, it's all a bit more exotic.
Oh, like what?
Well, like, I don't know, stuff I wouldn't cook with because I wouldn't know how to.
I still get my fruit from the market. It's the cheapest way to do it, I think. Especially if you go towards the end of the day.
Yeah, quite right.
I used to have to shout. I used to be a tour guide. Did I mention that? A London tour guide.
You'd be a good tour
guide. And I used to have
guide.
to stand on the side of the bus, and they would say, "Well, you've got to get people on the bus." You could guided tours, guided tours. So is it? Yeah. I used to get £1.50 an hour plus tips. Never used to get any tips.
No, but you
wonder why that was.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Love it. Right, we better turn our attention to the weather in the States. It's been bad. The worst hurricane in a century has hit Florida.
Hurricane Milton made landfall a few hours ago, around 8:30 p.m. local time, a little sooner and further south than expected, offering the state a glimmer of hope.
Yeah, not much of one, though. It was a Category 3. It's been downgraded to Category 1, but it's had maximum winds of 120 miles an hour, according to the US National Hurricane Center.
Yes, it's being called the worst in a 1,000-year flood, with the US National Weather Service issuing the highest level of flood warning to more than 2 million residents, while nearly 2.8 million people are experiencing blackouts.
Let's talk to Tyler Greenhagen, who's in Tampa. Tyler, good to see you this morning, and I know you are a weather fan and a bit of a young weather expert. What have you experienced over the last few hours?
Over the last few hours, we've experienced very high winds, like you've been saying, but rain's been coming in vertically. Our house has actually been slightly flooding through the bathrooms since we have little steam holes in there. We've lost power, like you said, lots of lightning as well.
Tyler, how had you and your family been preparing for this? So you haven't evacuated. What zone are you in, and have you prepared yourselves and your home?
We were in Zone C, and they asked Zones A and B to evacuate, and to prepare, we mostly gathered a couple of supplies. We knew we weren't going to be hit too hard since we're a bit safer area. So we left some supplies left over for the people who did absolutely need them.
What do you expect to happen in terms of the flooding? Because even though the storm is passing now, are you still likely to see sort of storm surges and very heavy rains?
Well, the closer we are to like a massive open water source like rivers or oceans, that's something going to leave some a lot more damage than it would if you're more inland. So if you're closer inland, you're going to be slightly more okay, but as you get more close to water, you're going to definitely experience more flooding damage, yeah.
And Tyler, as the hurricane passed over you, what did that sound like? What did it feel like?
Well, as it's passing over us, we could hear lots of rain and very much lots of thunder. It was very loud, but quieted down a bit more as it got through the night.
I know you are. I mean, you're only 14, but passionate about weather and weather forecasting and what have you. Does this put you off a little bit? Because it's an incredible thing to experience, but it also must be very frightening. Does it put you off the weather at all?
It does a bit, because I'm a Florida resident for 7 years. This is the worst hurricane we've had in a while, and definitely the most severe in terms of damage it's causing, because we just started recovering from the last hurricane, and we still have piles out from the last hurricane from all the damage, the rubble. So that's been blowing out into the streets as well. So it's definitely putting me off just a teeny bit.
I was going to ask, how are you, your family and your community, because it's so close after Hurricane Helene, and all of a sudden we've got another one here now. I mean, the community hasn't even finished its clean-up operation from the last hurricane.
Yeah, our family is blessed with a house that's mostly safe from hurricane weather. It's going to affect us a bit by, like, delaying how our electricity is going to come back on, because they still haven't gotten a lot of the electricity back on from Helene, so there's going to be higher priorities. And since we got to do massive cleanup effort here in our neighborhood too. Luckily not much else was damaged, but there was some downed trees that cut the power to us.
I tell you what, Tyler, what do you mean when we look at these satellite, well, it's not satellite, space images from the ISS, I'm guessing. I mean, it's phenomenal stuff, isn't it?
It is. It's just all that's rain, I think, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much. I tell you what, nature is beautiful but terrifying at times. Tyler, really good to talk to you. Best of luck, because I know you want to pursue a career in forecasting and things. I think you'll be a natural. Good to see you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you so much for
Stay
this opportunity. Have an amazing day. We will.
Thank you, too. It's definitely extreme weather.
Yeah, it's, mind you, I mean, very good. 14. Very confident for a 14-year-old.
I couldn't be doing that at 14, could you?
No, and staying very calm in the midst of it all. It must be absolutely horrific, actually, if you're out there. You wouldn't wish it on anybody, would you?
No, you wouldn't at all.
Ugh.
The preparations have been impressive. I've been looking on social media the past few days. I mean, they're quite used to it, aren't they, hurricane season in Florida? But putting garden furniture in the pool to stop it from being whisked up in the wind.
Oh, really?
Apparently, if it goes in the pool, that's the safest place to put it. Yeah, so they're all very used to how to prepare your home.
It's that whole thing, though, because is it just we're reporting on it more now, or is it all becoming a bit worse? The weather does seem to be changing for the worse. And I wonder, we haven't been able to ask really, but I wonder if that, is it going to have any impact on what happens over here over the next couple of days? I don't know whether it puts anything into the jet stream and all that sort of thing, isn't it? Might mean a bit more rain on the way.
Well, it's going to be in the middle of the Atlantic on Sunday. That's as far as my tracking went this morning.
Very good, very good.
So if it was going to hit us, it would be maybe later on next week.
Yeah.
Maybe it just subsides in the ocean somewhere.
It might do.
Let's hope so.
Let's fingers crossed.
That's our version of events.
Yes, very good. Right, let's talk politics, should we? The Prime Minister is preparing to welcome Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to Downing Street today.
Well, the PM and the President are to be joined by new NATO General Secretary Mark Rutte in his first visit to the UK in the role.
It comes as the Institute for Fiscal Studies is warning Rachel Reeves must increase taxes by as much as £25 billion to avoid austerity.
While Labour planned for only £9 billion of tax rises, the budget is expected to surpass post-election raids under Gordon Brown's 1997 government and David Cameron's in 2010.
Let's talk to our reporter Adam Cherry, who joins us now. Adam, morning to you, live in Downing Street for us. Let's talk about Zelensky first and foremost. How important is this meeting?
Well, it's very important. This is a crucial point of the war effort. President Zelensky is here, he says, to talk about his victory plan. Now, of course, that's a long way off, if indeed it ever comes. But the point is, he's here to lobby once again for those British Storm Shadow missiles. Those will be particularly effective against the Russian threat in the east. What's difficult there is, even if Keir Starmer is enthusiastic about it, Washington may be in the way. The Joe Biden administration have long been reluctant to sign off on any of these sorts of efforts because they're worried about escalation in the conflict. So even if today is a success, the long-term material benefits of it remain to be seen. Again, it's always a difficult one for Zelensky because he wants to come away from these meetings with something material, something to talk about. But it's America that's in the way, frankly. As much as Keir Starmer may want to give him what he wants, it's not necessarily in his gift.
Bleak news too ahead of the budget. Warnings from the IFS that Rachel Reeves must increase taxes by as much as £25 billion in order to avoid austerity.
Yeah, so this is from the Institute for Fiscal Studies, which is a think tank. They've released their report today. The tricky one here is that they have already, as we know, throughout the campaign, we heard it repeatedly, ruled out increases on income tax, on national insurance, at least for employees, and we'll come to that in a second, national insurance for employees and VAT. Those are the taxes which apply to what they call working people. Everything else is on the table, so we might look at things like inheritance tax. And yesterday in Prime Minister's questions, and indeed in a journalist briefing afterwards, Number 10 and Keir Starmer very reluctant to say that they won't raise national insurance on employers. Now, already in their pre-election plans, they said they would raise taxes by approximately £9 billion. That's from taxes on non-DOMs and applying VAT to private schools. But even if Rachel Reeves changes her borrowing plans, the IFS reckon that's nowhere near enough. So once again, the question for October the 30th is, where is this money coming from?
We said, though, the IFS is quite left-leaning in its thinking when it comes to taxes. I mean, there's no requirement for the Chancellor to pay them any attention.
Well, that's true, but of course she has her £22 billion black hole, which she has lauded over the last 3 months as proof of why she needs to make these calls. Yeah, the IFS, you might say, has a left-leaning bent, but the reality is she doesn't want to cut public spending. In fact, she wants to raise it and she wants to increase investment. So she's sort of boxed in here. What can she do? She could go for growth, but she needs a rabbit out of the hat to pay for this stuff immediately, and growth takes time. So she is very limited in her options, to be honest.
Okay, Adam Cherry there for us at Downing Street. Thank you very much.
So while there's all that trouble for the government and a lot of questions to be answered at the end of the month, of course, there are lots of questions around who is going to lead the Conservative Party. James cleverly knocked out yesterday, which was remarkable because he was the favourite and he did lead the last set of voting, and yet he came last in this one. It's all been very odd. You can't work out quite what has gone on with the voting. They have been duplicitous, those Tory MPs, in how they voted. It's all very odd. So Kemi Badenoch came out on top last night.
She did,
this
yeah.
afternoon.
And just one vote in it, Robert Jenrick coming in second place. Remember, you can watch Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch battle it out for the Conservative leadership in a special live event here on GB News next Thursday, the 17th of October.
Be interesting to watch that, actually, if only to see where each of them would take the party, because there's all this move as to, you know, do you take it to the left, to the right, do you keep it in the centre, and how do you tackle reform on one side and how do you win people back over from Labour and the Lib Dems on the other? It's an almost impossible task, actually.
Well, it's clear now, isn't it, that the Tory party is shifting to the right, officially, because they're both to the right.
It would seem so, but of course everything can change when they're in power or in position. Actually, they haven't got any power, the leader of the opposition. But it could change. You know, it's because you've got to win over centrist voters as well as anything. So you can't go too right-wing. And do you want to try and as I said before, would they try and out Farage?
Which you can't do.
You can't do.
But could they try and appeal to reform voters, bring some back into the fold?
Oh, well, that's got to be part of it. It's got to be part of it. But anyway, it's a very difficult job. Why anybody would want it, frankly.
Yeah.
Maybe James Cleverly's breathing a sigh of relief this morning. You never know.
And they've got to unite the party as well, haven't they? Tory party, which is divided.
It's a very tough job.
At the moment, very tough. Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. Let's have a look at the weather now with Alex.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For quite a few of us, it's been a very wet week. But today looks a lot drier, but also quite a bit colder. But there should at least be some autumn sunshine. Not too bright to start with across the southeast. Some cloud and showery rain here, but that is scooting away. Some showers feeding down the Irish Sea to clip Pembrokeshire and Cornwall, and a few showers grazing the east coast. But I say, thankfully, a lot drier than yesterday across northeast England. A scattering of showers over northern Scotland as well, but for many it's dry, it's fine. Some sunshine, but it is on the chilly side. Temperatures dipping only 8 or 9 Celsius in some places. Add on that wind and it feels even colder. Temperatures will certainly drop away through this evening as well under clear skies. One place that won't be as cold tonight is northwest Scotland, because you can see here quite a lot of cloud that's heading its way in, so that will actually help to keep the temperatures up. A few showers scattered about across the north of Northern Ireland down into south of Scotland this evening. A few of those across the north and the west of Wales, and still a few showers grazing eastern England. But for many places it'll be a dry evening, and quite quickly the cloud will melt away, leaving long clear spells, and the winds will ease down too. That is going to allow it to turn pretty chilly over particularly England and Wales. There's that cloud coming in across northern Scotland, helping to keep the temperatures up here, but also providing quite a few showers, some snow on the tops of the Scottish mountains. But elsewhere, dry, clear, and as I said, cold. Temperatures close to freezing even in towns and cities. Rural spots down to -2 or -3. So yes, for some, a frosty Friday morning, but a sparkling day of sunshine over the Midlands, South Wales, southern and eastern England. Quite a lot of cloud across Scotland, probably dry in southern Scotland, but showery rain elsewhere. A few showers for the north of Northern Ireland, but again, many places here will be dry and bright tomorrow. Temperatures, though, well, struggling into the low teens at best after that chilly old start. Enjoy your day.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, we've been going on, haven't we, bleating on about how you can win £36,000 in tax-free cash, which is a huge amount of money. It's our biggest prize so far. Last biggest was 30 grand, and that was won by Angela back in September. And we talked to her.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan, and I won £30,000 with the Great British Giveaway. I could not believe it. I thought it was a joke. Winning the money enabled me to treat my children, which I've not been able to do for a while. And yeah, it's given us peace of mind now at night. I'd say to people who want to enter or are wondering whether to enter, to do it. It's one text, and if I can win, anyone can win, because I don't win anything. This is the first ever prize I've ever won, and it happens to people like me.
Well, we know that Angela is a massive GB News fan, so you're probably watching now, Angela. Congratulations to you. Hope you enjoy spending your winnings. She's spending it on her family and her loved ones.
Terrible, Angela.
Which is not what you
spend it on yourself. Doing. No, keep it to your sen.
Yeah, you'd
have a lovely time.
You'd be putting it in a high-interest savings account.
Would you?
Yeah, she would. But you don't need to do that. He can't win it, but you can. Here's how. Yes, good luck.
Yeah, good luck if you enter. Good luck if you're single and over a certain age looking for love.
Oh.
Because?
Because?
Apparently, some people think you can be too old to ever find love.
No.
Miserable
I disagree.
Devils. Anyway, we're debating that in a couple of minutes.
Britain's Newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm going to see your show, Behind the Shoulder Pads, one night only at the Adelphi Theatre, October the 22nd. You're talking about your extraordinary life. Stage, screen, published author, 19 books, TV, most important.
Yeah.
Is there anyone who's managed to straddle, 7, 8 decades in showbiz and still be at the top?
Yes, I was thinking about that the other day because somebody said, you know, the last of good. There is a Shirley MacLaine.
Sure.
She started at the same time as me.
Right.
Sophia Loren.
Yeah.
She started around the same time.
She's not working much, though.
It's true, she's not, but she's still out there being, you know, a major icon. And of course, people like Dick Van Dyke, who's just almost 100.
Yeah, he's incredible,
you know,
isn't he?
I'm a mere babe next to him.
You are. But and I was thinking about, you've written some extraordinary, wicked, waspish diaries, which of course you can because you've worked with so many people. Look at the names: Frank Sinatra, Lana Turner, Elizabeth Taylor, Dean Martin, Gregory Peck,
Richard Burton,
Paul Newman. The list goes on
Kelly,
and on.
my favourite.
Was he your favourite?
Yes.
Why?
Because I saw him in a movie when I was a little girl called For Me and My Gal with Judy Garland, and I just fell in love with him. It's such a cute movie. Well, they don't make movies like that anymore. And then I was lucky enough when I first went to Hollywood at age 20 to meet him and literally hang out with him and his friends. And then I put him in a movie with me that I produced. He played my husband in a movie called Sins. And he was wonderful. He was really wonderful.
The People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring. Not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, after finding her person at the very old age of 49 and marrying at an ancient 51, National Treasure Miranda Hart has announced that she is actually married.
While sharing the joys and fun of getting married in true Miranda style, she joked about how thrilled she is at being a young bride.
So, can you be too old to fall in love? That's the big question. We're joined by author and broadcaster Nikki Hodgson and celebrity psychologist Natalia Kobylinka. Good to see you both this morning. Natalia, can you be too old to really find love?
Yes.
Why? Why?
Because I'm a psychologist more than 20 years. And last research shows that a lot of people, what means fall to love? You have something that you don't have enough. For example, you are very shy. And then you fall to love somebody who is very brave because you miss this braveness and you like it in another person. But when you're 40, already you know who you are, what you want, what you don't want. And if you start to make a relationship, you make it very pragmatic. You say, it will more easy to make my life. Why I need to destroy it? And you become to be very difficult to choose who you would like to have in your life because you know who you are, and it's not about fall to love. It's about it's easier or it's more difficult to live with somebody.
OK, so you almost become too independent. You don't need anybody at that stage in your life. Nikki Hodgson, what do you make of that?
Well, you don't need anybody ever. It's about wanting to be with someone, isn't it? And sharing your life with them. I think it's lovely news that Miranda Hart has got married, and I think it goes to show that we have such an obsession with getting married or finding our partner at a young age. And obviously there's a slight biological reason for that for some people because they want children, but there are other ways to have children past a point. And if you don't want to have them, then just don't worry about it. I used to be a Silicon Valley dating coach, and it was amazing how many people were so rigid about the age of the partner they were looking for, and they had this timeline and they had to get it all done by then. And life just doesn't work like that. The other thing is there's no such thing as the one. And there could be lots of ones.
Nikki, no.
Yeah, I know, controversial. Controversial,
no.
especially when I'm married as well.
I know.
Don't tell my husband, he's not watching.
Well, you're married at the moment, Nikki.
I'm married for now, as of today. But I mean, what I mean by that is people come along at different points in your life and they fit for different reasons. And I just think you can always be optimistic about that.
Natalia, I know it's changed it. The one, this has thrown me entirely,
Yeah,
Natalia.
me too.
About the one. Do you believe in the one, Natalia? Finding the one true love?
Yes, but again, you need to be ready. And sometimes before 40, you expect some very special. After 40, I say, I just be with somebody. And you jump and you want to be with somebody. And if you see that somebody look nice, you feel good, you say, let's try, because I don't have time. I need to make it now. And it's correct, because we need to live now. And sometimes I think that we need to start to think like in 20, like we are in 40. Because after 40, people really live better life than in 20.
What do you think? When did you get married, Nikki? Well, you're still a young thing anyway. But...
4 years ago, and we'll have been together 10 years next year. But my husband is 50 this year, so we weren't young when we got married. I was 36, he was 48, you know, so, and I'm glad we waited. I'm glad I didn't marry any of the other ones who were all terrible in the end. So the other thing I would say is the later you get married, the more of a chance you have of staying together, because it's just too complicated to get divorced as you get older and older. So get married late.
Nikki, you sound so romantic this morning. It's just too complicated to get divorced over a certain age. Natalia, what do you make of the school of thought that you get too stuck in your ways the older you get? You become more difficult to be with over time because you're just so used to your own company and the way that you do things?
First question which I ask my clients, which compromise are you ready to do? That he will with kids, that he is short, not has hair, has some problematic, like to drink, don't like to make a sport. It's the first, because every woman who is single after 40, they have huge list what they expect from one man. And 2 days ago, one man asked me, why I have so many single women? I say, because we are very demanding. We have big list of quality. And I say, girls, if you make it less, okay, he's not multimillionaire, he's not so young, he has kids, he has his dog, and what to do? Love him. And for this, God create a love, because if you love, it's easy to make compromise. But if you're not in love, it's not possible.
What about, what about finding your one true love, your quite literally your other half in life? Do you believe in? Well, Nikki doesn't believe in that. Natalia, does that not matter in this, or is it for the sort of women perspective that you've been looking at? Is it just an equation that people are going through just so they're not on their own?
You know, today we see too much romantic movie. And it's very big difference between fall to love and be in love. My parents, they're married 45 years. They're still together and in love. But they pass a very difficult period in life. In my life, I was married 19 years. And marriage, it's work. It's a lot of work. It's every day work. When you wake up and you fight to be with somebody, more easier to be single.
Oh, I'm thoroughly depressed.
Yes, so much.
Nikki, Natalia, we're going to leave it there before people start throwing themselves under a singles bus. Thank you very much indeed to both of you. I have to say, it's very odd that when you have two guests on debating something, I disagree with both of them.
Yeah, I disagree as well.
You know, I think you can. I got married at 48.
And it was worth the wait, you say?
And I was determined to be single. I was just like, no, that's it now. Not doing it now. That's it. And I've never... it's my one true love. It's the one.
And you say worth the wait?
Oh, it was worth every day of it. I was miserable for years, but it was worth every day of being on my own.
I love that.
Every day.
Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/you'll say. I can already sense the emails coming through. You're a bunch of romantics, I know you are, so
frankly,
get in touch.
I think you should call off the wedding.
Well, I was about to say, if someone getting married next year, this doesn't fill me with hope.
No, I may as well call it off, darling.
No, don't.
He might not be the one.
He is.
According to Nikki Hodgson.
Well, yeah, it doesn't exist according to Nikki Hodgson. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I don't know. I'm going to text him now. Let's see what he thinks.
gbnews.com/you'll say. Do you believe in the one? And is it ever too old to fall in love?
Never too old.
Never too old.
And I'm
We
really
agree.
pleased, Miranda. Good on her.
Yeah, congrats to her.
Right, let's return to the United States and the damage. We're finally beginning to see some of that damage from Hurricane Milton. This crane, oh, heck, look at this, collapsing at a building in St. Petersburg in Florida.
Oh,
Dear
my
me.
goodness. You can see all the rubble below it as well, getting a sense of the destruction that Hurricane Milton has left in its path.
It's going to be a big one to clean up. Was Category 3. It's been downgraded to Category 1, but that's still very strong.
Yeah, it's making its way towards Orlando, which we know is a very big tourist destination. Disney World there has been shut. These are live pictures now of Tampa Bay, where it's around 3:30 in the morning local time.
I reckon about 3 million people so far are without power. Local authorities obviously waiting until daylight to assess the damage fully. It is the third hurricane to hit Florida this year. Though oddly enough, it's been apparently a quiet hurricane season so far.
But just a very short time after Hurricane
Helene,
which has just passed through. So the clean-up operation has barely finished from that, and another hurricane has hit.
This one's going to take a while to clean up. Plus, of course, the death toll. We know there have been some deaths already, but what that's going to end up being, don't know. Let's pray, hope and pray that it's on the low side.
Yeah, of course, we'll bring you any updates that we have and the developments throughout the morning as it becomes clearer on GB News.
Don't go anywhere. We've got the sport with Paul Coit for you in just a minute, including some very impressive golf.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the M1 in South Yorkshire, there's a lane closed northbound for emergency bridge repairs at junction 38 at Huddersfield, causing delays from junction 37 at Barnsley. On the M6 in the West Midlands, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed southbound, where there's an accident just before junction 10, the Walsall Wolverhampton turn. It's taken around 40 minutes in queues back beyond junction 11 at Cannock. Great Northern Rail services aren't running between Stevenage and Gordon Hill after a fire near the railway earlier. On the M25 in Kent, there are long anti-clockwise delays from just after junction 3 for the M20. The Dartford tunnels after a breakdown earlier. On the M4 west of London, there's a lane closed westbound just after junction 4 at Heathrow after an accident. On the M4 in Berkshire, 2 out of 4 lanes are closed eastbound after an accident between junction 6 and 5 near Slough, causing queues from junction 7. And in Devon, the A380 is closed northbound south of Newton Abbot after an accident.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+ and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 8:36. Paul Coit's got the sport with starting here. We've got to mention it. This horrific, shocking death of George Baldock at 31.
31 years old, yeah. And most people know him, Sheffield United player. Moved to Greece, represented Greece, actually, although his grandmother was Greek and had played for Greece, and moved over to Athens to play for Panathinaikos. And he'd been at Sheffield United, he'd been with them for both of their promotions. And he was found dead in his swimming pool yesterday. Awful story, 31 years old.
No.
You know, we don't know anything more about it, apart from the fact it's almost this awful coincidence, whether it be an awful coincidence, that England are playing Greece tonight as well.
Yeah.
So I say obviously, hopefully, and I imagine there'll be either a minute silence or a minute applause for George, who passed away yesterday at the age of 31 in Greece. Awful news, really awful news.
No, so tragic.
But in terms of the match tonight, it's a not quite so friendly. Is it?
Nations League, yeah, that's what we call it. It's kind of friendly, but not a friendly because they try and make it competitive. It's the first competitive game England have played against Greece. When I say competitive, it means something to play for, whether you mean that for the Nations League or not. Since that game in 2001, when England needed to get a point against Greece to get to the World Cup, and David Beckham scored that amazing free kick right in the dying seconds. But anyway, England will be wearing all white tonight, like they did then. Greece will be all in green, but it doesn't have anywhere near as much at stake as that game did. Harry Kane is injured. John Stones is going to be the captain for the night, so it's a big honour for him. Lee Carsley, the interim manager, is he going to be the actual manager in the future?
He's gotta be.
I think there's probably a good chance he is. Anyway, he spoke yesterday about it.
Harry's nursing an injury, a small knock. It's something that we won't take a chance with. So you know, it was a great conversation that I was able to have with John last night. You know, to have that responsibility to ask him to captain the team. It's a brilliant achievement for John, something that he deserves.
Worth waiting for, wasn't it, in the end? So anyway, the game kicks off tonight. England are also playing cricket at the moment. There's all records that could be broken here. Because it's such a flat pitch in Pakistan, where England are playing, it just means that nobody's getting any wickets, but everybody's scoring runs. Now, Pakistan batted for ages. They were 556 all out. England are currently 658 for just 3 wickets. Joe Root is on 255, so he's over 200, so he's already done the double century and on his way to 300. He already broke the record yesterday for the most test runs by any English batsman in his career. Harry Brook is on 200. The partnership is 408. The record is... What? I'm getting lost in numbers here. The record is 400... I'm going to ask you questions about this afterwards. The record is 411, so only 3 runs away from the biggest partnership. Colin Cowdery and Peter May back in 1957. And maybe Joe Root could reach... That'd be perfect, that he could actually have the highest test score. So where he is at the moment on 255, the record is 364... which was Len Hutton at the Oval back in 1938. Sir Len Hutton. Can you imagine if England actually scored 1,000 runs? 1,000? Is it possible? Why not? They might as well just keep going. It's going to be a draw.
We'd have a bank holiday.
I think, quite frankly, we would.
That would be nice.
I think, quite frankly, we would.
I'm up for that. We've been talking about eggs all morning.
Yep.
And you've got some excellent shots.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Do you like?
I like golf.
Yeah.
I like eggs. I'd like to combine golf with eggs. Have a look at this. Here we go. Try an egg with a golf ball.
Oh, we can hit.
By the way, I was filming this. It was absolutely... There you go. How about that? How many goes did it take to hit the egg?
The squealing.
And there we are. There's another view of it as well. You know what? Please tell me this.
That's fun.
Why does that make me so happy?
I don't know. Isn't it weird?
It just makes me so happy hitting the eggs. And finally, very briefly, Wimbledon, the calls of out are over. They are now going to use...
a beep.
A beep instead of...
Boring.
Of out. No more line judges. It is very, very sad.
It's boring. I like the out. Out!
It's part of Wimbledon's history. Over 100 years of it. If they're going to be a beep... Give the beep to the line judge's ear, and then they can shout out as late as Ellie does when she does it.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Worth the wait.
Paul, thank you very much indeed.
You're going to tell me I'm out now, right?
No.
Out.
Actually, no.
Out.
Hurtful.
I didn't think about me.
I'm going to be shouting this throughout your final link. Off you go.
Right, still to come. Is it sexual discrimination to call a man bald? Well, not if he is bald, presumably.
Just facts.
Yeah. Anyway, it's in the papers with Fraser Myers and Suzanne Evans.
Check it all about.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30am.
Only on GB News.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight. Every night from 11 p.m.
Some controversial film news. Someone has hired an actor who's white. What the hell is going on?
Let me just fix my hair. Let me just come away. So, Wuthering Heights film stirs controversy after white actor, he's white, chosen to play Heathcliff.
Is that your Humza Yusuf impersonator?
That is, but yes, that's my Chinese accent. Experts have gone, oh no, there's a lot of, in recent years, he's definitely black or mixed race because he was found in Liverpool. And as you know, everybody in Liverpool is black or mixed race.
No, I mean, have you read the novel?
God, no.
Right, well, I have. And the novel itself does say, quite explicitly, that he is dark-skinned. Yeah. That the implication is that he's of Romani origin. So he wouldn't be whiter than white, you know. So, I mean...
that's fine. Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that casting... But on the other hand...
This guy's Spanish. His origin's Spanish.
Do you remember when there was a black Anne Boleyn for a Channel 5 miniseries? That seems to be more egregious, because, I tell you what, Anne Boleyn definitely wasn't black.
You racist. No, I almost feel sorry in this story because you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't now. Because if they'd have, like, it's not like he's a bit of an anti-hero, right? It's not like a good all-round.
He's not a good guy.
So if you go, right, we definitely need to cast someone black for this. What? Why are you picking just black people to play someone with so many character flaws? Or you go, why?
Like they did with Darth Vader.
Yes, that's right.
He was played by the Green Cross Code Man. Okay. Just the voice was done by...
That's true. Yeah. Yes, it was the Green Cross Code Man. I wonder what they were saying there.
Have you ever seen the videos of the original audio of Star Wars?
No.
So you've got... I can't remember his name, but you've got the Green Cross Code Man going like, I find your lack of faith disturbing. Yeah. No, Luke, I am your father.
They should have left it as it was.
This is the difference to me. We're talking about Star Wars. You're like, oh, have you read Bronte, Wuthering, whatever?
She only wrote one novel, Josh. You could... do with the courtesy of reading it.
I'll read it straight after I finish your one.
And it's actually brilliant.
The People's Channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark meets and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring. Not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Oh, how... Just apologise.
Oh, please, just tell them what just happened.
All right, so I just had a message from my husband, who's away at the moment, saying good morning, and I replied back saying, good morning, Angel, love you, hope you had a nice sleep.
I miss waking up with you.
And I sent it to our producer by mistake. And I don't know why. So there you go.
And then our producer Cooper just replied, is this for me? He was like, I did sleep well, thank you.
Oh, God.
Oh, dear, that was brilliant. Anyway.
We've all done something like that.
Oh, very good. It could have been a lot worse.
It could have been worse.
It could have been a lot worse.
Oh, it really could have been worse.
At least you asked him how he slept. Anyway, Fraser, Suzanne, welcome.
Morning.
To the madhouse.
To the madhouse. Should we go through the papers? Oh, dear. Where should we start? Both of you. Bridget Phillipson accused of hypocrisy after playing hockey on a private school pitch.
So Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, has been, part of her warpath on private schools. She tweeted at the weekend that private schools don't need astroturfed hockey pitches. Yes. State schools need career fairs instead, or careers advice instead. As if the tax on private school would actually pay for any of this stuff. But it's since been revealed that she herself at the weekend, just hours before sending this tweet, was playing hockey on a private school AstroTurf pitch.
Oh.
So maybe the pupils don't need the pitches, but Bridget Phillipson certainly does. And again, it's just this sort of do as I say, don't do, not as I do attitude that we keep seeing with Labour. Also, a reminder of the fact that, you know, private schools do lend out their facilities often to state schools for free, to members of the public. You know, there's a reason we give private schools charitable status, but if you tax them by, you know, put VAT on them, then you're not treating them as charities. Do we want them to act as charities? I think we do. I think we do want them to open up to the community and things like that. But they might decide it's not worth it financially.
Yeah. I'm just a bit surprised that anyone in Labour, you know, going jolly hockey sticks.
You might think, yeah, well, I saw her tweet at the weekend. I thought it was one of the most embarrassing tweets I've ever seen from a government minister. You know, it was real politics of envy, them and us, gutter politics. It was terrible. So congratulations to The Telegraph for calling her hypocrisy out on this, because that's just the kind of investigative journalism we need. We can't have ministers attacking, saying one thing, doing another. Although, to be fair, first 100 days of this Labour government, that seems to be very much their modus operandi.
Right, this is in the Express, Suzanne, and a judge has made a ruling about what you can call a bald man, and this is Mrs. Justice Dame Naomi Ellenbogen.
Yeah, so...
Sure, I've seen her in Tesco's.
A gentleman who sued his employer for unfair dismissal on the grounds of sexual discrimination because he was called a bald and then something very rude, which we can't mention. It was not a very nice thing to say, but the case hinged on whether it was sex discrimination because the word bald had been used, and the judge had to decide, you know, are men more likely to be bald than women? And she decided yes, they were. So therefore, it was sexual discrimination. So you can't call people bald anymore. James Whale, the bald Express columnist, where this one paper where this is reported, said it was a load of rubbish. He said you can't call people fat, thin, ugly or bald. Well, frankly, you need to get a grip.
It's just a statement of fact, isn't it?
Old Baldy James knows what he's on about. Baldy. I've known James a long time, lovely man, and he does talk a lot of sense with
so be
stuff
careful
like that.
who you call bald, I think is the message.
But if you are bald, it's fact.
Descriptor.
And also, what's insane about this case, I mean, he was called more than bald, but
It was very rude
we
what
cannot
he was
repeat
called.
what was said.
Yeah.
But the person calling him a bald X word, I won't say, was also a man. So how can you have sex discrimination against your own sex? It just defies logic. Surely you can only be sexist towards the opposite sex.
No.
Do you have, you know,
if it's sex discrimination, it's not necessarily sexist in that sense. It's not saying it's.
I don't think it was because this man had sort of misandrist views in his heart when he was saying this. I think he was just irritated, or that, you know, they're in a workplace argument.
I love that we're showing on screen loads of bald men, including Sir Patrick Stewart, who's very bald.
Well, we used to say bald men were great. There was that old joke, wasn't there?
Sexier.
Yeah, it's not. Sexier. I'm not bald. It's a solar panel for a sex machine. That was the one that I remember.
Oh, really?
Really? That's the joke I remember.
But it's meant to be higher testosterone, isn't it? So you're meant to be more attractive, yes. So, what absolute codswallop. Stuff like that drives
but
me.
There you go. It's a precedent in law now, so this is the world we live in.
And he'll have a nice payout as well and everything.
Yeah.
Should we talk about eggs, Fraser?
Eggs, yes.
Are fried eggs toast?
Well, there's a slightly, I would say, quite unbelievable poll in the Daily Mail suggesting that 60% of Gen Zers regularly have poached eggs. Fried eggs are falling out of favour.
Well, they probably do on their posh avocado and toast and all that sort of thing.
Well, that's another thing. Avocado, very popular. 20% say they have it with smashed avocado. Smashed. 18% say they preferred egg white frittatas with spinach. I do not believe that 18% of young people know what an egg white frittata and spinach
No, I think that's.
So I'm not sure this poll is that credible.
Is it English? Is this definitely an English poll and not a Los Angeles poll?
Yeah, or a very specific part of Shoreditch or something like that. But no, I mean, clearly egg habits are changing, but I'm just surprised that people are having.
No, aren't they?
They are changing, but I'm not. I don't believe that lots of young people. And they're talking about having these regularly are having, these elaborate breakfasts. You can't even get them out of bed.
It says 20% have a breakfast burrito. I'm sorry, I don't even know what that is.
I think it's everything from a fried English in a wrap.
Is it fried English in a wrap?
Well, I don't know. Fraser,
in like a tortilla wrap.
Yeah, like a tortilla wrap.
Oh, well, you're far more sophisticated than I am. I didn't know what
Sounds
that was.
good.
I mean, it makes me mad when I see people with the old avocado on toast thing. That just...
No, well, I'm horribly allergic to avocado, so
good.
Definitely not for me.
Good. It makes my blood boil. I just think it's so pompous.
But you can't beat the full English. You just can't.
And how do you like your eggs?
Fried sunny side up.
Okay.
Boiled with some nice soldiers on the side.
Yeah. So you two, Gen Z, are shunning both your ways of cooking eggs.
Yeah.
Apparently they don't like fried eggs or boiled. They're having them, well, poached on avocado. That's where they do it now.
That's ridiculous. Now, Daily Star with the shocking headline, which may get us done for some sort of discrimination, and the way the courts are going at the minute. Suzanne?
Yes.
The shame of the tea-making scumbags.
Well, I have to say, Fraser very kindly offered to get me a coffee this morning. And I have to say, I don't think he's shameful or a scumbag. But apparently, according to the Daily Star, office tea makers offer to make you tea, not because they're kind, but because they want to get out of work, and they reckon it gives them an extra 8 days of holiday a year by volunteering to make the tea. I think that's so cynical and unfair.
I think it makes you very popular in the office.
I think it does. I think it does. I have to say the tea advisory panel has hit back saying drinking tea... Yeah, there is such a thing. The tea advisory panel. Drinking tea is not lost working time. It allows you time for reflection and to talk about work. Yeah. And smokers, apparently, going out for a smoke.
You have to talk about it. Chatter-watter.
Chatter-watter. Smokers, them going out for a smoke in the break, a fag in the break.
It's very social.
6 days off work.
Wow.
And 5 days off work talking about the weather, allegedly.
But people do need breaks. People do need a bit of refreshment to get them through a long day, whether that's caffeine through tea or coffee or a cigarette, or a natter as well. Keeps you alive.
Isn't it? Good networking.
Yeah. Work is as much about the social or, being with other people, getting on with your colleagues. That's important. I don't think that's a waste of time at all. You can overdo it, obviously.
What if you're working from home, though? Maybe they've got a point working from home if you're just always making a cup of tea, because you could be... having a chocolate finger at the same time.
Well, apparently the worst culprits for wasting time are people who go on TikTok. They tot up more than 3 weeks of additional holiday because they're online for 33 minutes. And I think you're working from home. I bet you're on social media for a lot longer than 33 minutes a day, don't you reckon?
I think a lot of people working from home are doing a lot more. I mean, there's been a boom in afternoon appointments at, nail bars and golf clubs and things like that. I think, something might be going on there with the work from homers.
Yeah. Gym class is always very full in the afternoon, aren't they?
Are they? Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, dear me.
Can't get booked in there.
Well, I think it's a disgrace. You should all work harder. But there's nothing wrong with making a cup of tea.
Absolutely not, no. And thank you for offering, Fraser.
That was very nice of you, Fraser.
Go to the machine and press a button.
Yeah, but he offered to do it for me. My fingers might be hurting.
I don't see you offering me a cup of tea, Nishan.
I can't leave the studio. I'm not allowed. That's it, right. Thank you both. Here's the weather.
Oh, dear, that was so funny. We need to watch that back.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For quite a few of us, it's been a very wet week. But today looks a lot drier, but also quite a bit colder. But there should at least be some autumn sunshine. Not too bright to start with across the southeast. Some cloud and showery rain here, but that is scooting away. Some showers feeding down the Irish Sea to clip Pembrokeshire and Cornwall, and a few showers grazing the east coast. But I say, thankfully, a lot drier than yesterday across northeast England. A scattering of showers over northern Scotland as well, but for many it's dry, it's fine. Some sunshine, but it is on the chilly side. Temperatures dipping only 8 or 9 Celsius in some places. Add on that wind and it feels even colder. Temperatures will certainly drop away through this evening as well under clear skies. One place that won't be as cold tonight is northwest Scotland, because you can see here quite a lot of cloud that's heading its way in, so that will actually help to keep the temperatures up. A few showers scattered about across the north of Northern Ireland down into southwest Scotland this evening. A few of those across the north and the west of Wales, and still a few showers grazing eastern England. But for many places, it'll be a dry evening, and quite quickly the cloud will melt away, leaving long clear spells, and the winds will ease down too. That is going to allow it to turn pretty chilly over particularly England and Wales. There's that cloud coming in across northern Scotland, helping to keep the temperatures up here, but also providing quite a few showers, some snow on the tops of the Scottish mountains. But elsewhere, dry, clear, and as I said, cold. Temperatures close to freezing, even in towns and cities. Rural spots down to -2 or -3. So yes, for some, a frosty Friday morning, but a sparkling day of sunshine over the Midlands, South Wales, southern and eastern England. Quite a lot of cloud across Scotland, probably dry in southern Scotland, but showery rain elsewhere. A few showers for the north of Northern Ireland, but again, many places here will be dry and bright tomorrow. Temperatures, though, well, struggling into the low teens at best after that chilly old start. Enjoy your day.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. On the Orkney Islands, the A966 is closed west of Costa after an accident. On the M1 in South Yorkshire, there's a lane closed northbound at junction 38 at Huddersfield for emergency bridge repairs. Delays towards there from junction 37 at Barnsley. On the M6 in the West Midlands, the outside lane's closed southbound just before junction 10, the Walsall and Wolverhampton turn after an accident. It's taking nearly half an hour in queues back beyond junction 11 at Cannock. On the M1 in Leicestershire, the two lanes are closed northbound after an accident between junctions 21 and 22 from Leicester to Ashby-de-la-Zouch, causing delays. In Northamptonshire, the A43 is blocked south of Brackley, causing queues towards and away from the M40. Great Northern Rail services aren't running between Stevenage and Gordon Hill after a fire near the railway. And on the M4 in Berkshire, the outside lane's closed eastbound after an accident between junction 6 and 5 near Slough, with delays towards there from junction 7. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good morning. Hurricane Milton makes landfall in Florida, carving a path of destruction.
Nearly 2.8 million homes without power and winds over 100 miles an hour causing havoc.
It's the third hurricane this year to hit Florida, as experts warn of a once-in-a-thousand-year flooding event as it makes its way across the state.
Tax raid fears as the leading think tank warns taxes will need to rise by £25 billion in order to avoid austerity.
Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch to face off with the Conservative leadership as James Cleverly is knocked out.
Cracking under pressure. Egg farmers are scrambling to find ways to survive an increasingly strained industry.
A colder feel out there today, but for many of us, a brighter day. There'll be some sunny spells and just 1 or 2 showers. Join me later for a full forecast.
It's just gone 9 o'clock. I'm Stephen Dixon.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
We had a debate earlier about finding love later in life.
We did, and I said people would be very angry about this.
Yes, because we were saying, or some of our guests were saying, it's not possible.
Yeah,
Can't
and the
find
one
it,
doesn't exist.
And and the other guest who's meant to fall for it saying, no, there is no such thing as the one.
And soulmates.
And soulmates and all that sort of thing.
But you're a romantic bunch, and I knew you were.
Good.
And I knew you'd say this. Rudin says, I'm 70 and I've just got engaged. Oh, congratulations. Going to get married in the spring. So, yes, you can fall in love late. We are both widows.
Oh, Charles. Oh, you're a good man. He says, I've fallen in love with my wife every day. And I have done for 44 years.
Oh, it's going to make me cry.
That's lovely.
That is lovely. Dickie says, love in later life, absolutely. I lost my wife of 30 years several years ago, and I thought that was it. And then out of the blue at 66, I have found another wonderful person to be with. Oh, that's nice.
Anne says, I was 18 when I met my husband-to-be. He was 25. We tried not to get together. We married in 1983, 9 years later. Sadly, my husband died in 2015. I'm 69 now, and I've had my one love. I don't want anybody else.
Oh.
Well, that's exactly what I'm like.
The one true love.
If anything happened, I would never be with anybody else ever again. That's it.
Oh. And Lee says, I've been married 21 years to my second husband, and I'm still in love. I was over 40. Looking back, I should never have married my first husband.
Well, this is a nice one from Dickie. You can't look for love. True love finds you. If you look for love, you'll find it in all the wrong people.
No. You're a romantic bunch.
Yeah, well, I think you're all right on that one.
You always know what to say with those kind of stories. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do keep them coming in. gbnews.com/you'll-say.
Sensible bunch.
They are. They're very romantic. It's nice.
Now, the worst hurricane in a century has hit Florida in the United States.
Yes, Hurricane Milton made landfall on Florida's west coast just a few hours ago, around 8:30 p.m. local time, a little sooner and further south than expected, offering the state a glimmer of hope.
Well, the storm had been listed as a Category 3 hurricane. It's been downgraded to a 1, with maximum listed sustained winds of 120 miles an hour, according to the US National Hurricane Center.
Well, it's being called the worst in a 1,000-year flood event, with the US National Weather Service issuing the highest level of flood warning to more than 2 million residents, while nearly 1.6 million people are currently experiencing blackouts.
Absolutely grim situation. Of course, the issue is we're not going to know just how bad it has been until first light, which is, you know, a good sort of 4 hours away at the moment in the States. And when that happens, it's going to be a case of just assessing exactly how bad it is. And the clean-up operation, never mind the potential of loss of life and all that sort of thing, just even the clean-up operation that is going to be horrific, actually, really bad. But they're going to have to crack on with it.
Yeah, and so shortly after Helene as well, which is the hurricane that just came before this, so many people, their homes have been destroyed, so much damage done to their properties already, and that was before Milton came through. So we won't have a full picture, will we, for the next few hours? But we will, of course, bring that to you on GB News once we have it.
Now to politics, and the Prime Minister is preparing to welcome the Ukrainian President, Volodymyr Zelensky, to Downing Street today.
Well, the PM and the President are to be joined by the new NATO General Secretary in his first visit to the UK in the role.
Well, all this comes on top of warnings for the Chancellor. The Institute for Fiscal Studies has said the Chancellor must increase taxes by... Oh, let's forget that. Let's take you to Downing Street. It's President Zelensky just arriving now, we believe. Hugely important, of course, for him to maintain this relationship with the UK, one of the strongest allies. Of course, that was all brought about by Boris Johnson, who is still widely praised in Ukraine. But there is a new leader, of course. Well, there have been several since then. But, of course, it's important for President Zelensky to maintain relations. And there's the Prime Minister greeting him with a hug.
Oh, a hug? Yes.
Indeed.
And this is the second visit of Zelensky to Keir Starmer since he came into office. They have a very close working relationship, don't they? Mark White, who joins us now, our Home and Security Editor.
Yes, indeed. I mean, President Zelensky could be forgiven for believing that there's not been much in the way of focus on his efforts to deal with Russia in Ukraine, and that's because there hasn't. We've been, understandably, the world community focused on the Middle East crisis, but this is very much about showing Ukraine just how committed we are to helping Ukraine defeat Russia. And just yesterday, in fact, there was quite a significant Ukrainian success in the Krasnodar region of Russia with the targeting by the Ukrainians of a drone factory within a military base there. Huge explosions that lit the night sky. I think we've got those images that we can show you of that explosion in Krasnodar. There you see it, just absolutely massive. 400 Iranian drones. So there, if ever you needed proof about the Axis, the threat that the West perceives from Russia, from China, from Iran, from North Korea, there is a great deal of collaboration in helping out Russia arm itself in taking that fight to Ukraine. But of course, Ukraine's big battle at the moment is to try to persuade the West to allow them to use some of the longer range precision missiles to take out targets like this in Russia.
What's the threat with that? Because is there still this concern, the idea that NATO, if that was happening, then that gives Russia an excuse to then start attacking NATO?
Which is what Russia has said all along. Every time there was a new development with these anti-tank missiles first being used, then the move towards allowing NATO tanks to be sent to Ukraine and used. You had Russia again warning that, you know, there would be very severe consequences for the West. The same with fighter jets that have now been supplied to Ukraine and the training of their pilots and the likes of the UK. So this is another step. It's happening in incremental steps, but it's happening, as far as Ukraine is concerned, far too slowly. They believe, and President Zelensky will reiterate this to Prime Minister Starmer today, that if they can get that commitment and more support from the West, they can deal with Russia and they believe, have an overwhelming success on the battlefield, the various battlefields in Ukraine, by as early as next year. We know that the Ministry of Defence in the UK, in its kind of regular updates on casualty figures, came out with a staggering figure just yesterday that last month 1,300 Russian troops were either killed or injured every single day. Every single day. It doesn't bear thinking about. And it has been, the casualty rate, dead or injured, has been running at something like 600,000 since the beginning of the war. That is an almighty figure, but Russia, as we know, has this history of attritional warfare where it pushes its soldiers onto the front line, cannon fodder, for want of a better word. And it will continue to do that. It has just...
But at what point, then, are the Russian public aware? At what point do they say enough is enough?
They are now aware because, of course, all of the funerals take place on a daily basis, many funerals across Russia, those bodies that are returned to their homeland. So, yes, there is absolutely an awareness, but there is also a degree of popular support for the war as well, because they're getting fed a narrative from their media about the fight that they're taking. They see it as an existential threat from the West that they're having to deal with and fight in Ukraine, just as we see what is happening in Ukraine as an I'll get that word eventually, threat from Russia, that, you know, if we don't stop Russia in Ukraine, then other NATO countries could well be at threat.
Zelensky's likened this, hasn't he, to fighting with his hands tied behind his back, not being able to use the Storm Shadow missiles inside Russia. How likely do you think it would be that the UK changes their mind on this?
Well, the UK is not the one really that needs to change its mind. The UK wants to do this. The US is a stumbling block in terms of allowing this to happen. We did think, actually, in recent weeks, that there would be a move and an announcement by the US that this could happen, and it may well happen. But like everything, frustratingly for the Ukrainians, it is, as I said before, incremental. It just takes time. and all the longer it takes, of course, the more lives are being lost in Ukraine, the more difficult perhaps it is to eventually shift Russia from some of the gains it's making in the south, in the Donetsk region, for instance.
I tell you what, he's a heck of a campaigner, is Zelensky.
Yeah.
And there's one issue that has dominated his premiership, but I mean, he pursues it relentlessly.
He is a wartime president, and you're absolutely right. I think the world, or at least the Western world, really woke up to the calibre of the man when he refused the offer from the US to evacuate when it really looked like Russia was about to overrun Kiev, when it was advancing from the north, from Belarus. And he said, no, I'm staying. And he stayed ever since, apart from, now quite regular trips to the West, like this visit to London, to try to keep this war in the forefront of the minds of Western leaders and to ensure that the UK continues to invest. We've invested £12.8 billion in Ukraine so far. 7.8 billion has been military aid at a time when our forces are very, very stretched, and that's controversial.
Well, it is, and in terms of that, look, we know we're short of money. We've been talking about it all morning. We're very short of money, and the military is short of money. At what point does that stop? It's a hugely difficult tactical decision to make.
Yeah, and the argument is that actually, this is in the UK's strategic and security interest as well, for the points I was making before about if you don't stop Russia and Putin within Ukraine, you are looking at a much worse issue that NATO and British forces will have to deal with. It is a drain, there is no doubt, and there are real concerns about, munition stocks in the UK in particular, with all of the munitions that we've been sending to help Ukrainians out. We're in the process now of acquiring more munitions and putting our military-industrial complex on a bit of a war footing to ensure that it is supplying all of the ammunition and missiles and the like that the UK needs, as well as supplying Ukraine.
OK. Mark White, good to see you. Thank you very much.
It's fascinating and disturbing stuff, has to be said. Just to tell you, of course, on the other side of the House, where the Prime Minister deals with that today, of course, the Conservative Party dealing with their leadership, and it's got down to the final two, which means MPs no longer have a say. It's all down to the final two, and it's Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch.
It is. James Cleverly, the favourite, now out of the race. Robert Jenrick, Kemi Badenoch battling it out for the Conservative leadership in a special live event as well, here on GB News, next Thursday, the 17th of October. One for your diaries. You don't want to miss that.
Now, it's time for the Great British Giveaway. Before we tell you how you could at least have a chance of winning £36,000 in tax-free cash, we've caught up with Angela, who won the £30,000 prize back in September.
Hi, I'm Angela from Wigan and I won £30,000 with the Great British Giveaway. I could not believe it. I thought it was a joke. Winning the money enabled me to treat my children, which I've not been able to do for a while. And yeah, it's given us peace of mind now at night. I'd say to people who want to enter or are wondering whether to enter, to do it. It's one text, and if I can win, anyone can win, because I don't win anything. This is the first ever prize I've ever won, and it happens to people like me.
Well, we know that Angela is a massive GB News fan, and she's probably watching us now. So congratulations, Angela, and we really hope you enjoy spending your winnings by treating your family.
Madness,
Isn't she
Angela,
lovely?
no.
Isn't she lovely?
Eat your crackers, Angela. Spend it all on yourself. That's what I'd do.
Well, there's £36,000 up for grabs now, and here's how you could be with the chance of winning it.
Yeah, best of luck to you. Still to come, we're talking about the egg industry. We eat millions of the things every day, but the industry itself is under pressure. We'll tell you more in a minute.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive, Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain's Newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
We shouldn't have to do this, Rebecca. These men should have been compensated long ago.
They shouldn't have to fight for recognition. And this is what's happened over the last 72 years. So all the way through from the test through to the present day, they've known that something happened to them. They've seen what they've been through, their medical conditions, the fact that many of these servicemen died well before their time. And they were ignored in a way that other countries didn't ignore their similar testing veterans. So other nuclear powers across the world, the US, for example, compensated and recognised their nuclear testing veterans many, many years ago. Yet, unfortunately, successive governments in the UK failed to do that. After the long campaign for medallic recognition, finally, these servicemen received medallic recognition, but it came in a jiffy bag in the post, which is not the way to honour the service that these men gave to our country. There needs to be an understanding and an uncovering of the truth of what they actually went through. They've been fighting for many years for access to their medical records, for example, urine and blood tests that they know were taken during their service. But when many of these families have tried to access their records, these test results seem to be missing, and there's no explanation as to why this has happened.
What basis does the Ministry of Defence say it's not our responsibility?
Well, we know from other studies across the world and subsequent studies, it showed, staggeringly that these men were exposed to the same amount of radiation as clean-up workers at Chernobyl.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Arlene Foster on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Now, you might be eating your eggs right now. Your eggs for breakfast. How do you like them? Boiled, poached, scrambled, fried? Well, this week marks Egg Week, a chance for Britons to be informed of the benefits of incorporating eggs into our daily diets.
Start your day on an egg.
Yeah, they're very good for you.
They are good for you. Cheap protein. Well, in the UK alone, we consume more than 35 million eggs a day. But farmers are worried about the long-term sustainability as they await the government's budget at the end of the month. Jack Carson has the story.
Britons love eggs. Every year we consume 12.8 billion. In Leicestershire, Phil Crawley has been in egg production all of his life, with his mum and dad starting their business back in 1971.
What we've got here is the robot that unloads the eggs. These eggs have come straight from the farms. They're now being unloaded, put onto the conveyor, ready for them to be packed into the different sizes that you'll see in the supermarket.
Produced to the British Lion standard, he explains what makes our eggs so good.
The majority of our eggs are free range, as with most of the UK now, but it's grain-fed, it's looking after the chickens, caring what you do. Fresh is important, process is important. We try to do the best possible job we can and get it from the farm to the consumer as soon as possible.
At the end of October, Chancellor Rachel Reeves will announce the government budget to Parliament. With tax rises on the horizon, changes to inheritance tax might revoke the ability to pass on agricultural land tax-free in order to raise more money for the Treasury. Phil says it would be devastating for farmers.
It's a big worry for all farmers. Farmers have benefited from inheritance tax relief, which we're very grateful for, but farmers by their nature tend to be asset rich and cash poor. The farmer has a lot of worth in his land, but that land is the tools to do his job, and he needs that land. And if inheritance tax was abolished or diminished, it would put a huge strain on a lot of family farms and other farms, and it could potentially mean them being split up, which is devastating for families that have farmed for absolute generations. It's not about more money, it's about supporting. We've had some huge difficulties with weather. Massive areas of farmland have been flooded. Arable farmers have had a really poor crop this year. Farmers enjoy what they do. We have a passion for creating food, but we do need support when the price isn't what it should be and when the yields aren't what they should be, and it's not to do with the farmer's fault.
As these eggs get ready to hit the shelves, farmers hope October's budget hasn't been scrambled together with tax rises. Jack Carson, GB News.
Right, Britain's newsroom heading away at 9:30 this morning. Andrew and Bev are here. Good morning. What's going on?
Good morning.
Well, extraordinary breaking news. The Police Federation chairman, who is a man called, what's he called? What's his name? He's been suspended because he told GB News that some police officers, Rick Pryor, were hesitating for engaging with ethnic minority Londoners because they were worried that they'd be accused of racism, which we thought at the time when we ran the story, it was GB News exclusive, was important. So important, he's apparently been suspended. So we're going to look into that. Police Federation has suspended him after GB News interview on officers' racism fears. That's good breaking news in the last few minutes.
Gosh.
I can't get my head around that.
Apparently you're not
allowed. That's
allowed...
a legitimate concern.
Yeah, of the elected representative of the Police Federation, but he's been taken out, suspended. Amazing.
He spoke to Charlie Peters, didn't he?
He did,
on this channel. And we discussed it last week, and they've obviously taken action and made him suspended.
But why shouldn't... I mean, so they're doing that rather than actually taking action into actually addressing the problem?
Yeah, if he's identifying a problem, which perhaps a lot of people might have suspected exists, you think that's what they should do. Don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah. ASBO crackdowns as well, antisocial behaviour with teens. We've got a fantastic guest on that. We're going to be talking a bit about the hurricane, obviously, in Florida. Andrew's had his own hurricane issue this morning, but you're going to have to stay tuned to find out what's happened. It was an emergency. It involved the weather.
His bated breath. You just have to wait for Britain's newsroom.
Oh. Honestly. And what else?
If that's why you had a different toupe on this morning. Is that
He's been to the hairdressers.
One blow off?
I've just had my hair blow dried.
Oh, it looks lovely, Andrew.
Thank you.
Workers' rights as well.
Angela Rayner.
From day one.
She'll be all over the... She's the big story today. Yeah, are you going to be able to get statutory sick pay from day one of your new job? Great. Turn up for work, I feel sick. You get 3 weeks sick pay.
Yeah.
Mad.
Yeah. And also, we're going to be talking to Dov Foreman.
Yeah.
Who's...
great-mother,
great-grandmother.
100 years old, died. Holocaust.
Oh.
She was in the Holocaust. Tributes even from the King.
Yes, I saw that.
She was a great lady.
Oh, she was.
And two women who got stuck up a mountain and then got rescued.
Yeah, good on them.
Oh, you got it all.
Right.
Programme today, jam-packed.
There's no need for us to continue.
Thanks, you two.
We thought that.
Your
We
work
could have
is
started
done.
earlier, really.
Thank you.
All right, here's the weather.
We'll see you tomorrow.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. For quite a few of us, it's been a very wet week. But today looks a lot drier, but also quite a bit colder. But there should at least be some autumn sunshine. Not too bright to start with across the southeast. Some cloud and showery rain here, but that is scooting away. Some showers feeding down the Irish Sea to clip Pembrokeshire and Cornwall, and a few showers grazing the east coast. But I say, thankfully, a lot drier than yesterday across northeast England. A scattering of showers over northern Scotland as well, but for many it's dry, it's fine. Some sunshine, but it is on the chilly side. Temperatures dipping only 8 or 9 Celsius in some places. Add on that wind and it feels even colder. Temperatures will certainly drop away through this evening as well under clear skies. One place that won't be as cold tonight is northwest Scotland, because you can see here quite a lot of cloud. That's heading its way in, so that will actually help to keep the temperatures up. A few showers scattered about across the north of